Good evening. This is your Ass Hurts News Network, coming to you live from the tip top of Cock Tower Square, with your host, Sergeant Friday. Sarge, good evening.
Well, thank you for the warm welcome there, Cletus.
Always,
And,
Sarge.
We want to remind the viewer that the Lig My Balls Convention Center is also open now. Feel free to rent space for any special event, whether it be work related or even weddings. The Lig My Balls Convention Center is now open at Cock Tower. Cletus.
And show special love to our sponsor, Ding-a-Ling.
Ding-a-Ling and Dingleberries, intimately involved in the creation of this tower. Oh yeah. I'm thinking we were supposed to have a special guest. I titled the stream based on having a special guest, and that information was handed to me. Again, this is third-party information. This may, in fact, prove why third-party information is not valuable at all. Time shall tell. And our help desk and queen of moderation, Cluminati, tonight. How might you be, Miss Minotti?
Great.
I know we're not your 5-hour stream you're so familiar with, but we do have you here. We welcome you. Ladies?
Well, at least, if he doesn't show up, you had a pretty good click-sucking title.
I had a yeah, click suckers of America unite and suck my dick. Yikes! Yes, so we're still caught up in this. I think I made an observation. I don't know. We need a segment called Genius Moments, right?
Yep.
I think we do need that segment, right? And I'm going to have to come up with sound effects for it, maybe something reminiscent to Einstein's era of music. What do you think, Liz?
I think it's a phenomenal idea.
So, we'll have to come up with something from his era and remind people that the asylums were closed at the same day the internet was opened. Cletus.
Well, they weren't really closed. It was just that the internet sort of took them over. It's like, machines in factories. All the asylum workers were out of the job because the internet babysits all these fucking lunatics all day.
Right. And these lunatics solve crimes on cell phones from thousands of miles away. It's almost like ESP.
ESPN or ESP?
Oh, well, for them, I think it's more ESPN, but yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
Well, our special guest tonight is purportedly, it's supposed to be, it's been announced to be TruthNOTFeelings, an individual that I've not had the pleasure to meet nor interact with up to this point. Cletus?
Well, just imagine a southern version of yourself.
Well, that's fantastic. It's good to know there are people like me littered globally.
Yeah. You're not just a regional thing.
I'm not just a single locale. Yeah. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah, you're a franchise.
I've been franchised. People are telling me I'm going to love him. Well, time will tell, Cletus. What do you think, Cletus?
Well, apparently, as long as you don't fault him for punctuality.
Well, I didn't have any interaction with media, nor did I make the direct invite. It's been third party. It's third party stuff, Cletus. So
yeah.
We have it is what it is when it comes to third party data, right? Well, yeah. I think third party data has been confirmed. Bear with me, Cletus. Bear with me. This is important. It requires breaking news. Third party information has proven to be true. Mark that down as the first time ever. Well, welcome, TruthNOTFeelings. You were being seen as a ghost there momentarily.
Well, I've been called worse. Hello, how's everybody doing?
How are you, sir?
Doing well.
Doing awesome. So Cluminati said that you were going to come up here tonight. I think you've enjoyed time with her and her well, not quite husband, 7-time attempt husband, Cletus.
That's an introduction right there, boy. Let me tell you. I don't know. I don't know if I can stand up to those qualities. Listen.
Well, last time I asked somebody something 7 times, they smacked me on the 4th try, 5th try, 6th try, 7th try. So maybe he's just in it for the handprints. Cletus?
Well, yeah, depending on where they're left. Sure, why not?
Oh, this is going to be interesting.
Oh,
Yeah, this is not your typical YouTube channel. We have no filter and give zero fucks.
and if our headquarters were not located in Beijing, China, atop the Cock Tower, we would actually have you in studio.
Oh, wow. All right, let's get this.
Let's get this. Before your ass hurts. We want to get this done. Your Ass Hurts News Network, brought to you by Dingleberries. So, Truth, we're just in here trying to point out that the problem with most of these cases is, in fact, public opinion that's derived from the internet morons. That's pretty much where the direction of this stream goes. Just to point out to the people online that they're the nutsacks, more so than the people they're pointing at.
I mean, there's a lot of facts to that.
Oh, see, then you're in the right place. We welcome you. So, what can we talk about tonight that you can inspire us with?
Wow, y'all are really putting me on the spot. All right. So
this is the No Shit Network.
Well, it's the Oh Shit Network right now.
No, you got a lot of insight into and thoughts on Sebastian Rogers, and that we were having a back and forth conversation this afternoon in regards to one of the things that I didn't get to finish the conversation on or really go far in it, is that I feel like there's a strong possibility that his autism diagnosis and whatever the world would label as disabilities he may have, that and the past of the parents has become a distraction that keeps us from seeing what actually may have gone down.
Media at its finest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and the public does mimic the media. Let's be honest here.
Well, I mean, the public has become the media.
There you go. And they claim not to watch the media, and they don't realize they've become it.
They have, and it's very one-sided or the other. And I think the one thing that I've tried to get across in the last couple of times that I've been on different shows, or I've talked on different shows, is that, if we continue to go down this road as a parents and we don't look at other potential options, then we're doing a disservice to Sebastian. There's been enough time, in my opinion, spent on all 3 of the parents. I'm not fond of any of them. I don't think I would parent the same way, yet I'm not a man that's going to step into a parent's shoes and tell them what they're doing is right or wrong. I can only look at the facts. The facts of this case seem to be muddied intentionally, in my opinion. I think that when you start breaking down where rumors come from, where they start, you start to get a pretty good idea of the, I hate to use the word game, but the game being played.
Well, I've offered to pay in general for the public for that surgery.
What surgery?
What surgery? I was waiting for someone to grab a hold of this so I could finish the fucking joke. That surgery that would include the expense of pulling their head out of their ass.
Well, it's just it's mind blowing to me that if you can go scroll through the live on YouTube right now and find 4 out of 5 shows replaying the same interviews, talking about the same things, attacking the same set of parents or parent, and yet there's 0 that comes out of it. If you're not fucking making progress or moving forward to a resolution, what the fuck are you doing?
So in other words, if you're not offering or working toward a solution, you're wasting your time.
Or yeah, you're wasting your time. You're wasting opportunities to your reach or your audience. I know money seems to be so important to people, But don't you think that an audience would appreciate reality as opposed to the BS? And I don't mean the ones that aren't going to add to the conversation. I mean the ones that there is a group, a large group of people who really do give a shit about the facts, but they get drowned out, they get bullied out, and they get run out of every conversation.
Right. And that's why we created this news network, because we're tired of our ass hurting from these losers. The losers rule the roost, and we no longer will tolerate that. We don't care if your name is JLR or your viewers.
Well,
Okay.
and I may have a little bit of a different, with respect to both of you, I may have a little different perspective when it comes to certain creators. I think certain creators are extremely smart in what they're doing, right? It doesn't mean that they're doing the type of show that I would support per se, but I think that there's a number of ones that are not liked, quote unquote, by certain people, and I think they're not liked because they're a little bit too Nancy gracious. And I don't mean that disrespectful,
Well,
but it is what it is.
I have no respect for people that'll place the tragedy of others behind the tragedy are willing to create for attention and money.
I
Those
will
are the
agree.
shows I take issue with. Okay. There's
I
enough
will.
tragedy in the world. We don't need to create shit out of thin air because this guy hit the kid with a belt. It's got nothing to do with nothing.
Right. I
Right.
will
And let's
agree.
remember, he was the person to come forward and he put on the table his wrongs unapologetically. And that's exactly what it's supposed to be, folks. When you do something wrong, you make your amends, you make it right, you learn from it. And you should not have anything to apologize because that's how you dealt with it.
If you
And
felt like what
that's
you
what I
did was
see in
wrong.
Chris Proudfoot.
Well, if you think you did what you did was wrong, I truly don't believe that Chris feels like what he did was wrong.
Uh,
And I'm not going to sit here and say that the discipline that he gave was wrong. I'm not going to make that judgment. Right. What I will do, however, is look at the facts. The facts are him and Katie both cornered themselves into a position, if they were guilty, that would be irresponsible and does not go hand in hand with the facts that we know. If in fact he ran away from home, it had to be pre-planned and meticulous. What we've noticed is there's not any mess up that we can find. And law enforcement has made it very clear, at least to what they're saying to us, is that they haven't found anything to prove anything other than a runaway situation.
I want to share this. I myself am on the spectrum. I was
Mm-hmm.
homeless at 14. And I swear to God, if I got this kind of news attention to go after my parents, I would fucking stay away until it fucking stopped.
Of
I
course.
would be getting even with them. You follow me? As a
Absolutely.
14-year-old man who was in the street. And my point is there's a lot of perspectives we can view this from, but really the only thing we should do in any of these cases is look at the available information, incomplete as it is, okay, and try to understand what it's showing us, and then wait for more data to be filled in. But to avoid waiting, or even while you're waiting, start doing things productive to help find this boy. Right? Why do that? Only there's several streamers that are doing that, and there are several people doing that. And kudos to them. But the masses of the YouTube lunatics all want to dig into personal backgrounds. Katie's and Seth's and Chris's, and one of the parents is the main driver of it all. And I don't mean that makes him guilty of anything. And I don't even really know if it's fair to hold it against the guy that's in pain, that lost his son through what apparently appears to be no means of his own. And his anger and frustration, lashing out at the other parents. I can understand that. But it shouldn't be our place as viewers or stream producers to continue that pain forward and to continue to add to the tragedy.
I can agree with 90% of that, right? I think that there is a level of necessity of heat. And the reason why I say that is if you look at this case specifically, there's been a shit ton of heat put on Chris and Katie. All right. And then as that was going on, Seth was adding fuel to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as the internet switched up, or a lot of people started to switch up and ask questions, all of a sudden it was F everybody. If you're not Team Sebastian, F you. I have a problem with the setup to the lie detector test. I have a problem with you're walking and you injure your shoulder. There's a lot of things on Seth's side that I have an issue with, but I don't think any of those have anything to do with his disappearance. I do, however, believe that Seth is on the spectrum.
Well, let me just say though that your character is your character. You could be a no good piece of con man piece of shit, but not be involved in the disappearance of this child. They're
Correct.
two different things,
Correct.
and they only really have any place in this discussion if there's a connection. And there is no connection. There is none. We don't even know if this kid was abducted or if we don't even know if there was a crime here. We don't know. And that's what makes this so egregious that so many viewers use this true crime avenue is what whether they know it or not is entertainment. This isn't entertaining. This boy is gone. He could have been grabbed by a sex cartel. He could have been abducted in many different ways by for many horrific reasons. He could have ran away. And it's the we don't know thing that we should stop arguing about and stop trying to put people in positions to show that they committed crimes just because they're close by or they're a parent. Until we have facts, it's actually just to me it's sickening that people do this with this. They did it with Donna Imes, they do it with the Kohlberger case, they do it with this case. It's like they need somebody to target. And once they got a target in their sight, it's the audience more so than the creator. The creator can't produce this shitty content of reflections and pavement unless there's an audience for it. Right?
Well,
I mean, I can fry shit all day long, but I better have some buyers.
well, no, that's absolutely true. I think on the same note, I think there's a little bit difference when you start looking at the time associated with the case, right? I think in the beginning, when a certain amount of quote unquote evidence or claims or whatever they might be start coming in, I think there's a level of appropriateness of theory and pointing the finger a little bit. But there's a fine line when you start finding out more information that is counterproductive to your theory, but yet you still push your theory.
Right.
Does that
They
make
do
sense?
that very much in the Kohlberger case. The Kohlberger
Yes.
case now they've all retreated to, well, they got information we don't know about.
And they probably do, but that's the same as in this case. Like, and I said this in two different panels, is that when you start hearing from law enforcement, I can't say it enough, that's when you know there's a problem. When they start coming out and talking to the public. With Nancy Grace not pushing this case anymore, I am led to believe that she was told to stop for some reason. There's no reason she would just leave this hanging in thin air. There's a lot of things to that point, including the sheriff's own interview and Seth's own interview, that he's very much alive, and then that's also supported by the fact that the searches have been essentially called off or sent to private or however it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
well, I don't know what the issue with Nancy Grace is, but I find it a little off-putting. And I think, to be honest with you, I think Nancy Grace in this case, and I like to see good in people, even though I am a prick. I think generally people are good. They just need the nudge to remind them. But if you take what Nancy Grace did with this breathalyzer, or not the breathalyzer, I'm sorry, the fucking lie detector. I'm amped up on cherry Coke again, folks. So forgive your host. She did silence him though, didn't she?
She did.
And so regardless of the results of that test, it did have an effect on this, whether we know him or not, because it did put Seth in check.
Well, do you remember?
For the most part.
Do you remember that Seth said that he got a call from the TBI, and the TBI asked him, "Why are you taking this test?" Y'all remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Why would the TBI call and ask that if they didn't already assume that it wasn't going to go well for him?
No, I don't. That's one possible way to see that. But they also don't want the distractions. They also don't want all
Well,
this
of course
public
not.
chaos. Look at the YouTubers are doing to Chris. They're stalking that family.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And not for anything. I think, to be very honest with you, I think the alibis of both fathers are fairly well confirmed when they were not asked to take a polygraph, but Karen, the woman was. Do you follow me? They asked her for a polygraph, not Chris, not Seth. And why would they do that? Well, because Seth and Chris's alibis hold water. And so if they weren't there, what use is a polygraph going to be? They couldn't be the perpetrators directly.
No, but the questions within that polygraph would refer to any knowledge or participation on any level. So, I think that the polygraph would need to be, it's interesting that we have this double
But you
standard.
never ask a question you don't know an answer to. I don't know if you've ever heard that before in law enforcement or in courtrooms. You never ask a question you don't have the answer to already. And so when you polygraph somebody, you essentially, you're trying to catch them in a lie based on available data you have that they
Correct.
don't know you have. That's the power of a polygraph, folks. It's not a truth teller, but it is an indicator that I have these pieces of evidence and you don't know I have them. And my polygraph would be designed to catch you out in that. And so when you exclude people from polygraph, that to me also tells me that you didn't have any information, okay, that would give you that ability to question them in that way.
Right.
Do you follow me? So,
Yeah,
so for me, the fathers are out of it.
Well,
Literally, they're out of it based on what the cops have done.
Well, okay, I could see where you would feel that way, and I can respect that. I think that one of the fathers is for sure out of it. See, when you start discussing Seth's side, right? Like we could talk about Chris. We can say, I'm assuming that if he wasn't at work, say he was at, say, a female's house, whatever, then there's some type of video footage showing that he was there. And they're not just taking his word, right? And they're not necessarily just going to take the location of the phone ping either. If they're that, gun ho on saying he has an alibi, there has to be a physical side of an alibi, in my opinion. So if you notice how Seth changed his entire tune on Chris almost overnight, right? Where it went from, they were going to work together, whatever it is. And I mentioned this before. If you listen to how he says that on camera, he takes about a 2-second pause between Chris and then saying Katie. I don't think Katie was originally in the conversation.
All right. And so what are you pointing out here?
Well, I think that Chris is clear. I think that it has been made clear to Seth that Chris is clear, which is why Seth immediately stopped going after Chris and tried to form some type of bond with him.
Well, but it was Chris that approached Seth. I mean, Seth has done everything a con man does to put money in his pocket. Now,
I agree with you. Listen,
does that make him involved in the disappearance of his kid? Absolutely not. But it makes him kind of scummish, opportunistic, right? Now, let's look at Chris. That what he does is an extremely high-paid job. That job is no joke what this guy does. He makes coin.
Right.
All right. This isn't a $20 an hour job. This is a 6-figure job, high 6-figure job. This isn't a $99,909. This is a big paying job. That guy doesn't need money. He doesn't need. So you can also then suggest that because Seth is pretty much not, he's got a new job, he's kind of broke, that maybe he's not being opportunistic. So my point is, you can argue all this stuff back and forth either way, but I can't imagine a world where the police would not want to polygraph the two dads and they not have confirmation of the dad's alibis and nothing to suggest otherwise. In other words, nothing connecting them or making them suspicious to involving a third party like a hitman or a kidnapper.
Right.
They don't have that. If they would have had that suspicion and any basis to run that suspicion, a polygraph would have helped them confirm whether they should pursue that or not. And they didn't even go for that.
Right.
So I'm really sure at this point, because of what we see, that the fathers have been excluded from involvement.
I can see that. I can see where you'd feel that way for sure.
And that's why the cops are saying, you guys shut up. You're making yourself points of interest that need not be. Just shut up. So we'll see what happens with time. And the reasoning of the facts in front of us is where the viewer they fall on their face. And the things I pointed out about Seth are not to suggest that Seth is involved in the disappearance of the boy. Really, we shouldn't even, if we're going to discuss that, it should just be, like I said, and I think Clue makes the point all the time. It says a lot about the person, but you can be a scumbag and tragedy still befall you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tragedy doesn't pick good people only. Tragedy befalls us all, good, bad, or otherwise. And
well, I think ultimately the point of all of it is, especially when it comes to social media, and Truth made this statement yesterday or earlier this afternoon or something, that discussion panels can solve crimes. And when he said that, I was kind of put off a little bit by that, because I'm basing it off of my experience with 99.9% of them I've ever had any involvement in or listened to. And it's like, most times discussions, especially on the internet, are literally just regurgitating the same shit that's already known, or it's blatantly accusing based on speculation and just wild assumptions. And I think there is value in evaluating
Right.
all sides
Now,
fairly.
I want to say this, and I'm not patting anybody's back or scratching my own. But in private on Discord, I talk with the Minotti family there. And in all of these cases, okay, we reviewed the available information and we came to reasonable conclusions. And in all fairness, in every single instance, we were correct right from the beginning. Early on, when we looked at the triple deaths in Kansas City, early on with the Donna Hines, I suspect that what we're seeing now in the Koberger case is confirming what we had saw early on. And having that conversation absolutely can be beneficial, as long as you're not drowned out by, um, why is Koberger wearing a suit? What right did he have to wear a suit? He killed 4 people.
Well, and my ultimate point there is that, I don't in regards to the viewer, which is the subject of all of these lives in this channel, right, is trying to make the viewer understand the the role that they play. It is discussion panels about things, and not blatant attacks should be where people are drawn to if they truly have an interest in true crime and furthering a situation or bettering a situation, not call-in shows where it's an hour of 20 people calling in to say the same thing.
I would have to agree with you on that. I'm going to clarify the discussion panel thing a little bit too, because I think clarity is always our best friend. You have to have people that don't see your point of view on a discussion panel sometimes. You,
Agreed.
you you need to be able to form a group of individuals who are able to progressively have conversations, even with disagreement. And that's how you get to the bottom of things. Having a panel of everybody that sees things the same way will only get you narrow-minded results. So it's kind of a respect game too. You have to find the people that will respect your opinion, respect you as a person or a sleuth or whatever you want to title yourself with online. It's important to have that diversity, or you become cultish.
Well, and I
Right.
think
Well,
in terms of the participants in the chat and even the viewers that are watching, to in the realm of true crime, when I'm 16 months into my experience into anything true crime related, other than 37 seasons of Snapped I binge watched. But Clue introduced me to that one day, and I was like,
That's
what
a
the fuck is
warning.
this?
That's all that is. That's a warning. She
Right.
gave a vision.
But
well, I think that
I've
if you have
watched
two
I've
people
watched
that see, if you see an infrared image or an image from a camera dark at night, and you want to disagree as to whether it's white or silver, I could see that, right? But for one party to say there's no car in the image at all, and there is not a discussion I'll engage in. Matter of fact, I'm willing to meet with you at the top of Cock Tower and throw you off, right? That's where this usually ends up going. These people bring up untenable positions that are not set up with any verifiable fact. If
or
if
or
the person did this, then that would be true. Well, there's nothing to say that if has got anything there's no if. These are the facts. There's the image. There's the car going by. You say it's white, I say it's silver. That's a fair disagreement. But if
well,
I say that it's not there at all, because maybe I'm just saying that kind of stuff I don't think is productive to have up on a panel. And you
well,
see it
and
all the
what
time.
I was ultimately talking about is not really necessarily the panel, but the chat itself, right? So let's
Right.
take Seth in the Sebastian Rogers situation. Now, he has said numerous times, and let's take him at his word for a minute. he said numerous times that he gets involved in these YouTube channels because he watches chat for ideas, for thoughts, for tips, things that he can go run down. Let's assume for a second he's telling the truth. How much value is there going to be if that chat is full of just absolute lunacy versus chat where the entire channel, the entire engagement is something that's structured or that's purpose is to further things along and actually logically discuss things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that's where I see the biggest gap with social media is that the viewer flocks to things. Like you could go online right now and look at Sebastian Rogers and you'd probably find between 2 and a dozen channels, and the ones that have the highest view count are the ones that just absolutely have the most lunacy going on in it.
Well, you can't really combat that as much as you can oversaturate that. What I mean is, if you run your channel in the manner in which you're describing, the positive side of it, it's just going to take you longer to get those quality people on your channel. Anybody can go get, a bucket full of minnows, but can you go get a I don't know what analogy I was fucking using. My point is quality is way better.
Anybody can buy a pair of shoes, but do they fit?
Right. Like I'd
Yeah.
much rather have, 80 people in a chat that are being productive as opposed to 4,000 who are being, anti-productive.
Right. But that's the whole point of this particular news channel, and maybe Cletus can confirm this with me, is we're really here to attack the problem, and the problem is the viewer. The viewer drives the narrative, and that's the actual reality of it all. And because of that, the viewer needs to be reminded that their conduct and their behavior is why all this chaos exists. And maybe you should treat the internet like you would treat people face to face.
Well, and not just to attack the viewer aspect of it, but also, occasionally like tonight, instead of the the comedic and satire aspect that we've done, but also actually provide a alternative, right, and a solution arena instead of just the madness.
I mean, I completely understand where you're coming from, Sarge. Like, I get it, but I think the problem with that is the viewer is how you get your word out. So if it's always attack or redirect the viewer, no one really likes to be scolded, right?
No.
And so I think there's a way. I think that the ideas that I've heard and I'm hearing are very productive. You said earlier that you were on the spectrum, and I am as well. And I think that adds a little bit to the "go fuck yourself" idea. You know what I mean? And I say that respectfully because it's just kind of when you deal with adversity and you don't necessarily know why you're dealing with it because diagnoses weren't what they are now. I think you become somewhat of a rougher type individual in life. It pushes you into fields and careers that maybe were said that you couldn't be in because of any challenges you might have. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with it to some extent, but I also think that this is lost. That no advertising is bad advertising, and repetition is the key to success.
That's
And
true.
if the viewer hears enough that they're the problem, people are going to start to snap out of it. Enough people will eventually catch on. Now it may take years to get a following here, like JLR, but I think there's no one out there telling the people that you are your own worst enemy. You're the one that's causing all of this trouble, not Seth, not Chris, not Brian Kohlberger, not Donna Imes. They didn't do anything. They're victims. They're caught up in this tragedy, and you're extending the tragedy by going down roads that have no bearing on the facts in front of you. And that's the issue. The viewer is, and they know they're doing it. I just don't think there's been any responsible streamer that's willing to come out and tell the public, cut it out. We're the problem. We're our own worst enemy.
Well, I agree with that for sure. I mean, I absolutely agree that we are our own worst enemy. Especially in chat because once again, remember, people believe that they are a different personality online as opposed to in real life. And I think that shows a lot by the mob mentality against someone who may have a different opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Sarge and I we had this debate months ago about about the internet is not real life, and I kind of feel like I might have changed his mind on that in the fact that it absolutely is real life.
Oh, it
You
is.
did.
The only difference is where the separation comes is that people are willing to go down roads and do things online that they would never do in real life. Just in the situation with Sebastian, right? There's millions of people that would sit on the internet and say what a bastard Chris is. But if
Hmm.
they ever met him face to face, very, very few would ever have the backbone to say and express their views that same way in person.
I mean,
Right.
I would agree that that's probably the case. I don't look at other grown men like that, so I can't understand per se, but I see what you're saying.
Well, listen, you can have all the publicity you want about McDonald's, including lawsuits of burning women's vaginas, right? Ice cream machines being investigated by the FBI. And the bottom line is the reminder of McDonald's is the part that sticks with people. That's it. And you'll stop for McDonald's for a coffee, you'll stop in because you're constantly being reminded. And in that shape, that's exactly how the viewer has formed what they do and who they are online. They've conditioned themselves. It's like anything in society, right? You can't go into many Targets now. They just implemented a nationwide policy where all their merchandise is going to be behind locked cabinets. I am not a thief. Why must I shop in a store with locked cabinets? Why do I need to be reduced to the lowest denominator? And when you get on the internet, you see it all the time. These people act and say and defend and argue about shit that shouldn't even be discussed when it comes to this poor missing kid. The parents' past and their issues that's their shit. Don't make your problem mine is a simple way to live, right? And Seth is making all his personal problems with the other two ours. And I don't that doesn't find me Sebastian.
Agreed.
You know? And I think the viewer needs to be slapped around a little bit before they start to understand that. The internet isn't a bad neighborhood because it's located in a certain area of town. It's a bad neighborhood because you people are here. Okay. It's not that hard to get if you're honest with yourselves. We created this bad neighborhood. We are the bad neighborhood.
Well, and when Sarge says attack the viewer, I think the first time I heard that, I was kind of put off by it, but then I realized he's just a northern prick, and then I sort of got it.
Well,
That
you lead a horse to
it's an
water, you
attack
make him
with
drink.
compassion behind it, right?
Lead a horse to water. You can't you could lead a horse to water and not make him drink. Your ass hurts. Give me a salt lick. Give me some salt. I guarantee that I'll make the horse drink the lake. Okay. Don't you tell me I can't lead it to water, can't get it to drink. I don't know who you think you're talking to, okay? But it ain't old Sergeant Friday. That's why I was saying that to Cletus. That's the kind of conditioning that we need. People are so comfortable in being the assholes that they are. They need
Yeah.
to be pointed out as being assholes and hit up like an asshole before they may wake up.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm a proud, so I can't.
You're struggling with it, but you see the sense in it too, don't you?
Of course. Of course. Well, yeah,
That's why we're atop a cock tower in downtown Beijing. And we're the Your Ass Hurts News Network. Because when you're done listening to us, if your ass ain't hurting, come on back. It will when you finally realize you're the problem.
Oh Lord.
listen. Did you know? I'm just kidding.
No, go ahead.
Oh,
Speak your mind in here.
I'm afraid to now. No, I'm kidding. You know, my my curiosity, I guess, is at what point is enough coverage enough coverage? And I don't mean when do we stop talking about them? I don't mean that at all. I mean, how many days in a row can we watch the same things over and over and over again and have the exact same conversations over and over and over again and having no other end out of it? Like, that's what's driving me crazy. I can't even watch people have their lives because it's literally watching other creators' content and then dissecting it. Or you have creators who their whole stick is to make fun of and bully other creators. I don't understand it. I don't get it.
No. Well, have you ever paid attention to politics? I bet you have. So I don't want to know your politics, but I want to give you an example of how I streamed from 2015 to 2020 and got out because of this issue with the viewer.
Right.
I was never a YouTuber. I only started the stream at a request of I opened a Twitter account February 17, 2015. It's my first exposure to social media like that. And what I come to understand is that it's in fact, for instance, let's say your position on immigration is X, right? And you see all of these people posing opposition to your opinion, right? And all you keep doing is arguing with their information. So, like with global warming, let's say you don't believe it. You're constantly tweeting to me all the outrageousness of the other side's argument that it's real. In other words, you're spreading their propaganda upon me and all of your followers. I don't want to know what Al Gore said. If I want to know, I'll go look it up, right? But rather than allow that to take place, the people that are in opposition to it, instead of discussing sensible, common solutions to the crises in front of us when it comes to energy and the planet and pollution, rather than have any of those discussions, I'm stuck in this box having to argue whether global warming is real or not, because everybody I know that's on the same side as me only reposts and retweets the assholes that disagree with me. So you're stuck talking about the asshole stuff. You see me? See what I'm saying? It's like this vicious circle of being our own worst enemy. We engage their topic and put it front and center. And that's what we debate. And instead of ignoring that topic and going on to something new, instead of attacking and going along with Seth and looking for other missing children and applying our hand and our power of communication to solving other missing cases, like you guys are just saying, these shows keep repeating the drama, the witch hunt, the bullshit, the same questions day after day after day.
Absolutely.
We're our own worst enemy.
I'm just curious if people are they tired of you? I think that's where this will win.
There's
You
no
understand what I'm
alternative.
saying? I think that this is when common sense will start to win. When people can actually go to turn on whoever their favorite creator is and go, again, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's when they're going to start searching for other types of information on the case. And they're going to find people's lives like y'all's, where it's talking real situations, real possibilities, real discussions.
Right. And instead of arguing about the horribleness of windmills and solar panels and their ineffectiveness and their issues, there's issues with them. There is a place for them. For both sides are right, yet both sides don't even want to discuss where they're right. There's no reason we shouldn't be using that technology in the manner that it's being pitched. Probably not. So why aren't we discussing other energy sources, other ways to create energy that won't pollute the environment, like thorium reactors, which don't even have radiation issues? Why aren't we talking? See, we deny ourselves the common sense discussions because no common sense applies to any of the discussions we engage in. And we surround ourselves with the bullshit. We surround ourselves with the inefficiency of a solar panel. Well, okay, I get it. But we do need more energy, whether you got electric cars or not. You know what I mean? We can't even have that discussion because we get dragged down and Seth going after Chris and Chris and all of this nonsense. Everybody is like the lowest common denomination topic is where everybody runs to.
I just want you to know that your brain is actually moving faster than mine, and that's impressive.
Oh.
I'm
Is it
just
my
throwing that
brain or
out
my
there.
mouth? Wait a minute. Is it my brain or my mouth?
No,
I was
it's
going to say easy there.
it's definitely something, but I find it interesting when someone jumps like that because it's the way my brain thinks. So I was just pointing that out.
Well, do you see? I mean, and I love for someone to poke holes in that and what I think to be pure common sense.
Well, I think I don't think that I want to poke holes in it because I think you have some good base and maybe morals and ideology. I'm assuming you probably have a career that can back up some of your opinions, right?
I'm in a construction trade, just so you know.
Okay. Yeah, I had an uncle that used to say that too. He wasn't, but it was
No,
a good puppy.
I am literally in the construction industry. Been for 30 years.
I believe you.
Okay.
But trying to
See,
think.
doesn't it make you that's the whole thing. Is I'm going to make a point that it takes no thought to speak the truth. So if I ask you your name, you're going to give me your name. If you have something to hide, there's going to be a slight hesitation. You have to forcibly lie. Lying is not an act that comes natural to a human being.
That's true.
Okay, and I've said this. Cletus will laugh. Maybe I've said the difference between an adult and a child. To obtain adulthood, you need to have secrets and you need to learn how to lie. Now, whoa, whammo, you're an adult. Those two things make you an adult: secrets and lying. That's it. And what are people trying to use against you as you're an adult? Your secrets and your lying.
I mean, I see where you're going with that. I get what you're saying.
Right. What is a child? A child will look at somebody and say, "Mommy, look how fat they are." Right? Like, what?
Oh, we're not supposed to do that?
I don't see any problem with it. You can look at me and tell me whatever you see. I'm happy
Nobody come for me. Nobody come for me.
Yeah. So were you talking about if you had to make an opinion based on what you know, your opinion on what possibly happened with little Sebastian, what do you think it is? What can you say?
Me?
Yeah.
I think that there's way too much that says he's alive than says the other. I think that there is only a very small window of opportunity of what could have happened if we are to believe what we already know. I think that he left that house willingly. I think that it was planned. I don't know if it was planned for that moment or if it had been planned if some type of situation like he was in had come up. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
I don't see anything, and I mean anything, that shows that anything happened to him inside the house. I think that the dogs and the radio communication between officers immediately after it was discovered that he went missing is extremely important. I believe that the dogs did get a hit, not one, but three. I believe that the communication about where that hit was versus where they saw somebody with the thermal camera. Now, whether that person had anything to do with Sebastian or not, I don't know. Now, was Sebastian lured there under false pretenses, or did he go willingly? That's the question. If we're not to believe that that happened, then the only other logical, in my opinion, option would be that he was taken with being told something was going to happen good, and in fact, he was placed somewhere to be kind of out of the way while everything with court was going on with Chris, even if Chris and Katie didn't know it was going to happen, meaning other people in the family wanted to make sure it happened. So there's a number of different theories, but they all revolve around the parents being innocent
And him walking out that house.
and him walking out the house. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. We talked about that way early on, Cletus and Clue and I, when it came to. I argued originally that he was lured away from that home, and he willingly left that house with someone he was comfortable leaving with.
Yes.
And I also said last night, when you take all the noise away and just look at what the facts are, and the fact that he's gone, that his phone was there and he has no shoes, you can also make the argument he never left the house.
You can, but then you have to justify how was his body taken out of the house.
Right. Well, there's a whole new can of worms you can open. However, it is a viable consideration. Right.
It is to a point, right? But I think in terms of the simplest explanation, I think that immediately becomes overly complicated, and there's nothing to support that.
Well, that and thank you. That and you know, they had a cadaver dog and a search dog in that house. You know, death is admitted. The smell of death is admitted immediately after death. You don't have to have a long time period between the person dying and a quote unquote smell being left. That's not how it works, right? When you lose life in a body and the blood no longer flows, the smells released from the body are smells that only release after death. I'm not going to go into the science of it, but it is what it is, right? So whether that person was in there for 1 minute passed away, 1 hour passed away, it
Right.
doesn't matter. A cadaver
That,
dog will hit on that.
that's accurate if we then conclude that meant not leaving the house meant that he was terminated.
Correct.
That also may not be part of the entire. The child may not have been terminated. That doesn't
You're
mean
correct.
the child was not on that premise, and that the child's smell would emanate throughout the whole home. So the
Correct.
dogs really were only tracking what was in the home, and so if this young man was not, no harm had come to him. That statement I made that when you take the pertinent facts in the beginning, it almost leaves you with a sensible statement that he never left the house.
Yes, but then you have to look at this. If any cars would have come in and out, they would have been caught on the ring cam from across the street, the one that we know is there. So if anybody came into it, the only time anybody came in that we know of after the police were the grandparents.
Who knows there's only cameras and no cameras in the
Right.
car?
Well, no, and we're talking immediate after the crime, but let me go and make this. This is what I'm saying. Theories can go on; they can become more complex. But how long after the crime was everybody aware where the cameras were in that neighborhood?
Very quickly, within an hour, law enforcement was already putting the address.
And
in
how
there.
long before the public knew where all these cams were in that neighborhood? Relatively quickly, within days of the event, correct?
Right.
All right. So again, I'm saying there was no harm had come to him, but he was still in the house. Is it potentially real there? Because the fact
Even
that he
you
had
think
no
even
shoes and the fact that he left his phone. Listen, the fact that he has no shoes and left his phone, but apparently he has his glasses and was apparently dressed lightly, not for the weather conditions. You can keep going with what I'm pointing out and make a strong argument the kid didn't leave the house. Is all I'm saying. I'm not
you
saying that's what
could. No,
happened,
you
but I'm saying
absolutely.
that argument is as valid as him being lured away. It's his argument as him running away.
Okay, I would agree, but then my question would lead, it would be the next step, right? Because in order to do a proper investigation, I said this before, you have to have two things that don't equate to that to remove it, right? You can't just have one. So let's
Okay.
say we go with that theory. He was inside the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
At what point was he removed from the house?
That's something that there's no way to know unless you can establish he was kept in the house, right?
Well, I mean, yes and no. My question is, what do you think that the neighbors who were aware of what was going on, A, because of the mass YouTube response, B, because of the mass police response, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now they're not watching everything that's coming in and out of that house. Like, I mean, we have to think with some common sense here.
I suspect that there is accuracy to that, but I suspect there's also that you could walk out of the back door of my house and not know it, no matter what happened here 6, 4, 5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Right, but
So
carrying something the size of a 15-year-old?
Well, or who said the 15-year-old wasn't under his own power? See, I'm saying that the problem we have, and again, I don't mind discussing facts like this. I think it's a healthy exercise. I'm not saying that this is true. I'm not defending this as it happened this way. But aren't we on the topic of facts and we're not attacking the parents?
Yes.
Right. And that's what we miss in the discussions across YouTube and across social media.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I agree with you. It's unlikely what I had just proposed, and I did defend it just to prove a point.
Right, I get it.
That kind of discussion is welcome. We disagreed and we questioned each other, correct?
Yes, that's exactly how it's supposed to happen.
Not a problem at all. Right?
Exactly.
You mean you're going to leave the stream without your ass hurting, Sarge? Is that what you're saying?
No. I'm just saying he and you had mentioned this, and you mentioned it all the time. that in fact you can have conversations where you disagree, and there was no disagreement on anybody. You asked great questions that need to be answered in order for there to be any validity to that fucking idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't come up with what ifs or coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Right.
All I said was it appears is strong that he didn't leave the house, and that then you went into he was possibly, well, they would have smelled him. Well, I'm saying it's potentially he wasn't dead when the dog was there, and so
imagine
that's what.
imagine the tens of millions of hours of streams that have been done on the topic of Sebastian Rogers were structured in a way that logic is discussed and plausibility is discussed instead of, thinking that stating Chris used the belt on Sebastian, stating that enough is going to make it where he actually did something. It's going to change the the course of time. There could be some benefit to this, and the viewers should absolutely demand that and take part in doing that.
I agree.
And for those that think my idea is insane, I agree with you. But it's also insane to say he ran away with certainty. It's also insane to say he was lured away. We don't know, right? We literally don't know. And until we do, all of these theories are just an exercise in discussion, but none of these theories add to the tragedy, which viewers are so famous in wanting to do. They always need to pile on to the tragedy.
Yes, but that kind of exchange that we just had would have led to an elimination of an idea, right? Which is what needs to happen. You can't just keep. We could agree to disagree, but may find a common ground somewhere in the middle there.
Well, and
that's a step closer that we weren't to before.
And another important piece of that is it could present a new perspective about a known fact, right?
Correct.
That leads to a whole new path.
I agree.
That's where I feel like the importance and the power and the ability that exists is, but it's just not utilized.
Listen, I know we have only about 400 followers. We've been doing this for what now? A week and a half or something, Cletus? We've only
That's good.
Right? And I think the 400 people here will eventually turn into 4 million, because I think that people, when offered an alternative, and especially I can be a dick. Clearly, look at the picture of the fucking studio. There's no question in my mind that I'm a dick. Okay, but if you just hang in there, you'll see and you'll experience, like the conversation we had, me and Cletus will often have, that there is a way to deal with this stuff that doesn't add to the pain and tragedy that you're talking about. And that's what we should all look to be doing amongst each other, rather than tearing each other apart, attacking creators. Creators shouldn't be creating. There was this video of this and that, and there's people peeing on Ethan's face. Stuff like that should be the last thing anybody should feel comfortable saying in this setting. Okay. And that's the stuff we're fighting back against, because it's the viewer that allows creators to come up. Look at what JLR does. He comes up to attack the father. Why? What good does that do this situation? Why is he trying to make more tragedy out of a tragic situation? That's an illness that man has, but he knows it makes money.
I want to address something, because I think you made an even better point, and I don't know if you realize it. If you go back through the comments, and I was doing it because I'm flipping over back and forth. If you go through the comments while you were giving your example explanation, but no one knew that's what you were doing, right? All of a sudden you had people that were agreeing with you, right? That's the power of the host. That shows right there, even if it was I was having a hard time processing it myself, but I was going with it, right? But respectfully, into the comments, even people who think the way that you think, meaning they don't want to get caught up in it, absolutely got caught up in, kind of going with what you were saying. And I think that even more proves your fact from earlier that, you have the creator has a huge influence on the information getting out. And even more importantly, has a huge control over how people might look at a situation.
Yeah.
No disrespect to anybody in the comments.
Cletus will tell us about this being reality. Go, Cletus, tell us.
About
the internet being real.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think the downfall of what I've seen in 18 months with it is that people forget that it is real life, because a lot of people jump on as an escape or as a source of entertainment. And I think, more people should I don't pretend to think that there is, how many people, 5 point whatever billion you were saying. I don't pretend to think that 90% of them are complete imbeciles or just
I
lunatics.
do.
But when you see them on social media, 90% of what you see is exactly that. And all I'm saying is, if you're not that way in your day to day life, why be that way on the internet, especially in the realm of true crime, when you could actually use your brain, have valid, logical discussions, and try to move things forward.
Right.
Because a lot of times people who have predatorial brains will attach to things that are predatorial from the other side.
Right. I think we're brainwashed from birth to fall into this way of improperly using knowledge in our minds. We don't think. We think, but we don't think. We're stuck in a box. And we find a box that's most comfortable to us, or the group that'll accept us, and we run with that box. And when people think that they're thinking creatively, they don't realize that they're thinking creatively, but only with the information allowed in the box. See?
My box
And
came
so,
from a rental store.
and so people don't want to get all boxes and sift through them all to come to an understanding. They simply stay in the box they were brainwashed to be in, whether it be like a Republican or a Christian or a Jew. It
Rent a
does.
center
In other
mattress
words, in all
box.
of these categories, you're gay, you're not, you're this, you're that, and people stay in those boxes for their data set, rather than understanding that the answer, really bits and pieces of the answer, are in all the boxes. And you have to try to look at as many boxes as possible before you say to yourself, I think that's what happened here. Right? People are stuck in these small little caverns, and you're brainwashed to be that way. When you look in high school, you were in a clique, were you not? Were you not with a group of people that weren't around other groups of people? Well, certainly you were. And that's
Yeah,
kind of
they
what
were
I hope.
called inmates.
Yeah, we got to snap ourselves out of that mentality, because there's so much of wonder to have when you start looking at different points of view. There's absolutely nothing wrong with a windmill. There's a proper application for it, but on its face, it's kind of cool that the wind can create electricity, isn't it? And
Yeah.
yet you don't even get to have that conversation with somebody, because you're stuck on the negatives, or why your side hates it, or your side thinks the we're all going to drown if you don't build one. Just, I don't care if you think that. You're
Well, I mean,
welcome to think that.
listen, it's okay because flat Earth will eventually do itself in.
Right. So it's and the viewer, what I'm saying is, when you come into these rooms, whether it be politics or be true crime, you get stuck in one corner. And the other side, like, there is validity to the other side, whether you agree with them or not.
My
And you
corner
got to
has
get,
pads on the wall.
mine's in free fall. I don't think I'm ever going to hit. Hell is a deep hole, I think.
Fuck that. I'm going to heaven. Have fun in that hellhole. No, I'm going up there with the Lord. Y'all got me fucked up.
I think you might get a flick in the head. What do you think, Cletus?
I don't give a damn. I'm fighting Jesus if I got to. I'm going to heaven.
Saves.
Well, Sarge, we're at our hour, and I got food getting cold.
All right,
So
you get your food. I'm going to keep truth not feelings up here for a few more minutes if I can.
I'm eating while we talk. You should get with the times.
Yeah, Cletus. But yeah, I'm going to just, if he's got more, I got a couple of questions I want to pick his brain on. So if you're going to eat, you can listen.
all right.
And awesome. The co-host, the best, the host that's the most, the co-host, Cletus.
Your ass hurts.
I hung up on his ass. That's what he gets.
Damn.
Bam. Yeah, we play that game during the day. Who can hang up on each other first? You act like you're interested in something. You ask a question, as they go to answer it, you just click off on them.
I always ask people if they've met my friend Dial Tone and then hang up.
Yeah, Mike. That's too funny.
I
So
like to help people meet each other.
you covered, you were talking about some of your thoughts on the Idaho 4 as well. Fair enough. On somebody's screen.
I mean, I have my own opinions, right? Here's my thing. I don't like to cross my cases up at the same time that I'm looking at, because I feel like it does it a misjustice. I've been paying quite a bit of attention to this case, and unfortunately 2 other cases that I can't really speak on. But
Why can't
I
you?
think that hmm,
You
I
could
think
bring
that
anything you
that
want up
case
in
is
here, bro.
well. I think that case is very interesting because I think that there's a possibility that some facts are wrong, and I think only time will tell whether that's the case.
And
I'm
what
not
case are you
saying
talking about? The Sebastian case or the Kohlberger
no,
case?
Idaho.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I think what intrigues me in this is that the points I'm trying to make are inside all of these cases. So
Hmm.
when you look at the Kohlberger case and the people that accept the story of a police officer that he turned off his phone, there's no evidence Kohlberger turned off a phone. When the PCA was written, it was written before any real investigation ever took place, if any at all. They relied on cell phone tower locations and videos, of which not one of the videos can conclusively confirm Kohlberger at the wheel. Fair enough?
Right.
Okay. Now, when you look at the alibi, the people that accept the story of the policeman will read his alibi and laugh that he was looking at the stars and make fun of it. Yet the funny thing is that if you apply both levels of acceptance to both stories, right? That and looked at them for what they were. You look at the policeman's statements. From my experience and from my talking with the FBI and from this and from that, nothing in his statement says, from this camera view, we observed Brian Kohlberger, right? There's no evidence in that PCA that Brian Kohlberger was at that house. It's all a story. Yet
Hmm.
when you are provided with information from the defense, which actually has been proven true by Bill himself, that Kohlberger was not stalking. And we've been led to believe for over a year and a half that kid stalked them on 12 trips, right? So
Hmm.
my point is people, for some reason, get stuck in the box, like they can't come out of the box, that the story of the police doesn't really hold as much water as it appears when you look at the contradictions from the defense, which are holding water.
Well, I think one of those reasons is because you have to first denounce the police's activity. You know what I mean? You have to go against
Why?
that force.
Why do you
You
got to
know,
denounce them? Why can't you just simply say that their story isn't adding up versus the story that's being told on the other side?
well
Why
then
should
you would be bringing a level of distrust, right? Like that would be, not saying that's a bad thing, but that's just, are you? It's almost, what are you going to get out of doing that?
No, what I'm saying is you don't have to find any malfeasance on behalf of the police for arresting Mr. Kohlberger. I agree that PCA made him the best suspect they had.
Right.
However, I do not agree that he was the only suspect they had and that they focused on him with tunnel vision. I'm not saying they did anything wrong or set the guy up or intentionally did this. I think this is just human nature what's happening here.
Hmm.
Oh, we have breaking news. A Clue Minotti, not to be mistaken as a first and last name, has entered the panel.
Hello.
I'm leaving.
Oh, oh boy. Well, she's the super queen of mods, just so you know, and she's also from our help desk, and she has information on prostate cancer that she
Well,
often shares with the viewers.
it doesn't stop there. Did you know that you could live off of semen and water for 6 months?
I would be dead quickly.
Okay.
Listen, I'm living. Wait, what? What did you say?
You don't want to hear that again. Next.
Somebody needs to send a welfare check for Cletus.
Yeah, well, somebody could get that handprint off the back of his head. That would probably make things easier for him. But you see what I was saying, though? You can use the same view that you apply to the statements in the PCA. If you applied that same view to the other statements, you're opening your horizon to other possibilities without having to admit either one is right or wrong. Well, Clue, say your piece. Are you up here to hang up on me?
No.
Oh, just came out of nowhere. Turned it into profit.
Have we gotten any closer to solving this, or I
Yes,
agree with
yes.
Carl's.
No, talking to Sarge is like going to a circus while tripping acid and trying to play darts in a PVC pipe.
I could
Jesus.
not have explained that better ever.
Holy fuck. Someone ought to type that up and put it in the chat room. I could make it part of a banner below. Buyer beware.
I feel like he goes on a construction site and tears things down and then builds it back up upside down.
Well, that would be a mistake. I would never think that of me.
And it always looks like the cock tower.
I was
I
going to go
actually-
there.
Listen, I actually, for the first time ever, decided I was going to build a 10-second quarter-mile streetcar. And not only did all the math I needed to understand what it took to get there, and in fact built that vehicle.
That's
So,
impressive.
Yeah, I got it in my garage.
What would you say your superpower is in your autism?
I don't even know, man. I think part of the problem with the Asperger's is that you can absorb too much, and it makes it very difficult to turn around and explain it. Well, I think I do have a superpower. Look, if I focus, I can take the complex and make it simple. I can explain how an automatic transmission works very simply, a jet engine.
So would you say that science would be your thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So like for me, mine is like numbers, information, filing it away, you know what I mean, in my head.
Memories.
Yeah. But it's funny, not my own personal memories. Very interesting way to explain it. But if you were to ask me personal memories of like certain things, I would be unable to tell you, but I could tell you dates and times and places with events from, whatever, 50 years ago.
That's pretty awesome, man. So now we have our we were going to open up a math division and call it the Einstein.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Einstein area, and so maybe we'll have to call on you for that.
No, sir.
Well, you're good with numbers, you said.
Yeah, but I'm a baby, and that would be Baby Einstein. Anyway.
That would be fine. Baby Einstein works over here. Look at the building.
I think that's copyright. I don't know. Listen,
Clue, why do you call it? She says that hoe Clue. Why do you call yourself a hoe?
Because she likes Christmas.
There you go.
She celebrates Hanukkah with Kwanzaa.
Kwanzaa. She has pineapples littered all over the house.
That's a different lifestyle.
In places where she sits.
That's more of a Katie and Chris type thing.
I told you pineapples equal swinging.
They absolutely do. What do you mean?
How do you make that connection? Someone help.
You have to
Because
walk.
that's literally the universal sign for swinging.
Thank
Is
you.
Yes. And if you pass a door or a property with an upside down pineapple, then that means they're currently looking to swing. I don't know why I'm having to educate you on this, sir.
Well, I've never heard of it before. I never looked into swinging.
Or walk through the grocery store with one upside down in your shopping cart.
I mean, if you
Bazinga.
go to Florida, it's just colored loofahs, but I'm colorblind, so I think that's bullshit.
Well, let me just say that I don't even know why I'm going to add this to the topic, but I have, I think, 12 cans of Dole pineapple in my refrigerator.
Well, that tells us that, never mind.
Just don't turn them upside down or shove them up your ass.
He likes to
Cans
shake
of
them, not
pineapple, I
stir.
don't think will fit up anybody's ass. And if they do, you're no friend of mine.
You don't
Sir,
watch much
sir,
porn,
hold
do
on,
you?
hold on, sir. Google's going to be your best friend, okay?
No,
Go ahead and do it yourself.
let's get back to the cases at hand, shall we?
Okay, you said it. I didn't.
Crazy monkeys in here.
Wow,
What the
that
hell
was
is
a little aggressive.
My
So,
God. No.
where did you? I'm sorry. Did you go ahead?
No. Where did I what?
Where? So
Agreed.
true. If I'm
Yes.
looking at this map, right,
Mm-hmm.
and the dispatch call,
Right.
where?
What map? And what case?
In
Sebastian,
the Sebastian Rogers case.
when I know it's going to be a stupid question, I should probably ask fiance in private, but I won't do it because I'm on here right now. When the cop
Yes.
says north,
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean like if I'm looking at the map like I was earlier, that means I go up?
Wow. Well, we know you were not a pirate in your last life. So you're going to you're going to it's north directional from the sun.
But there's no sun on the map.
No, but you would use common sense as to where it would be.
How the fuck do I know
Oh my
that?
god.
Based on the way it's cast in a shadow, the way it's shining.
I mean,
What do you
your
mean?
ass
How do you
hurts
know that?
apparently.
There's no shadows on the map.
Oh my Lord Jesus, woman! It's if you're looking at the map and you know that, let's say, if you're looking out the front door of the house, then you're
Okay.
going to assume that the sun would be up to the left. So it would be, if you get straight up, I would assume that north would be going back behind the house at an angle of like 45 degrees.
Okay, I can work with that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So why are you trying to orient yourself north?
Well, because there's a map, right? And if you go through the communication, the radio communication between the officers immediately after he was reported missing, they give you a point by point of where the dog is, where they saw the person in the tree line. I mean, all the way to the yardage from the tree line. And so I think that if we're going to continue with this investigating, at least on YouTube, what we have to do is go back to the beginning and start from the very beginning, excluding any personal ideas we may have about Seth, Chris, or Katie. We're going to leave them out of the equation altogether. And if we
Right.
do that, we have to assume that he left on foot or he was taken. And the only way that that could have happened without a car being seen or anything like that would have been going a certain route. So when the police dog took out of the house, we're trying to figure out the route that the police dog went following the scent to see if it's the same route that he would have went to make sense and jump into the pond to lose the scent of the dog. Did I say that right?
Yep.
All right. So
So
you
it's
just
it's
want to track.
basically
You want to track the info. Yeah. What you're doing is logical. You're trying to put together the information from the crime scene and the investigation
right
and the
and
potential
create a
that those
diagram.
movements. Yeah, makes sense.
Well, I've said the best thing a creator can do is stop what they're doing and start a whiteboard web session, right? And each idea has to have its own body, and from that body, you need legs of information to support that, right? And eventually, what you're going to do is you're going to very quickly rule out, situations, and then what you're going to do is you're going to end up with a handful of possibilities, and from there, you go back to the beginning
Right.
again and you work on those handful of situations while eliminating a second time or
Absolutely.
a third time or a fourth.
Absolutely, bro.
That's how investigations are done. So all this other bullshit is just bullshit. If you really want to know how to get to the bottom of something, you don't listen to fucking medians, you don't listen to psychics, because I don't know. Someone please tell me the last time a psychic got out of their house, walked and grabbed a boy or girl by the hand and said, "Let's go back to your parents."
There is, to me, a flaw with psychic work. I mean, you should all be rich, in my opinion.
No, I mean, I think that there are people that are able to cross over and communicate, but I don't think they do it for a profit. I think when you say that you can just call up on the spirits, that's bullshit.
No, what I mean is if you're psychic and you can tell the future, how on earth do you not know the lottery numbers? I'm just saying.
Well, how do
Yeah,
you
I've
not
said that
know
forever.
Intel? How do you know Intel wasn't going to become the world's richest corporation? How do you know? Right. Like I'll tell you, in 1996, I wrote a big topic in a computer forum about multiprocessing, and I said computer speeds are going to be limited because of the material, and that they're going to go to multiprocessors. I said that long before there was ever an 8-core or a 2-core chip ever even thought of.
Oh, wow,
And
that is
does
100%.
that make me psychic?
No, that
No.
makes you autistic.
Right, because I understood what they were doing, how they make the chips, the material they use,
Right,
and what yeah, I understood it. And I said, yeah, if they're never going to get to 10 gigahertz with this, but they will
right.
put, and I happen to have the second world's fastest multiprocessor computer in the world that I built here in my own home.
All right,
You could,
Inspector Gadget.
You can actually drag race computers like you do cars, believe it or not, amongst each other. But anyway, my point is, it
Imagine,
didn't make me psychic, but you can. Some people are good at analyzing facts and giving you information. And I wish that I was smart enough to act on some of the things I've said throughout my life. They come
well,
out and they go away.
here's a side note question for everybody, and this is something that I like. It's kind of like an exercise that I like to do. How many of y'all in the chat, and I can't really see unless I flip over there, I may do that in a second, but when you have inner monologue, like when you have inner thought, how many of you hear your own voice talking? Right? I don't mean just thinking, you actually hear your own voice talking in your head. I'm curious at the answer to that.
I don't hear my own voice.
Okay.
No.
Blue?
I'll tell
Maybe?
you what.
No.
No. What about Cletus?
I hear strangers.
All right, that's a different type of mental health issue.
Strangers in the night.
I don't know. It's an interesting question.
Well, the reason
Well,
I ask this is that's called an inner monologue, right? And only about 10% of humans, some say 20, actually have an inner monologue, right? Everybody else thinks thoughts without sound. So normally those that, and it's interesting, Sarge, that you said you don't, because normally those that do have an inner monologue are most often on the spectrum, right? But more importantly, they're extreme critical thinkers.
I don't think I'm an extreme critical thinker, but that's for others to decide, because they hear what I'm saying and how I act. So maybe listen, there's a lot of internal dialogue that goes on in my head. There's no doubt about it. As a matter of fact, when I get a time to share with people, that's actually where I increase understanding. If I can't spit it out and have a conversation like we have tonight, like I was in another guy's stream, and when you suggest Kohlberger's the killer, and he was a drug addict. What people don't realize, drug addiction, you become more of a suicidal person, not genocidal. Now, will drug addicts commit crimes to get their drugs? Yes. Will they hurt others? Yes. But the act of doing drugs is an act of slow suicide. And they're more apt not to be homicidal maniacs like that for no reason. You see? And that thinking came about after a discussion with someone that does parole for a lot of people and has been around a lot of addicted people. And it helped me form that thought and have a discussion with him. But I think that's very accurate. Being an addict myself, it is a form of slow suicide. And in the Kohlberger case, if the fact that he was a heroin addict, his mindset to me is more suicidal than homicidal, and just the makeup of who he is as an addict. Does that make sense?
Well, I think it does. I also think that it is very important to understand when, let's say, someone who may profile people for a living, that you don't get caught in that box of addiction, right? Because addiction and the idea of addiction can cause you to profile a person much more different, uh, and can actually be a negative as opposed to a positive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you prejudge, and you've got conclusions that you accept and you hold on to, and you prejudge. So there is no one shoe fits all. I accept that 100%. I was an addict when I was young, and I've been clean for 30 years. So
Because it's hard to profile. It's hard to profile a substance, because when you're dealing with addiction, you're not dealing with a person. You're dealing with a substance that controls a living being.
right.
I'm not saying that they don't have control over their choices, but the substance, most often, especially in addiction, and I personally know, is, it's the substance controlling the human, and it's no longer the human controlling the human.
Well,
I think it also depends on the substance you use.
yeah, that may be. I don't know. I had the desire to continue to do drugs, but I also knew that those drugs were harming and killing me. And life starts to get worse and worse and come down. Everything falls around you. The walls cave in. It is a slow path to destruction and death, and that's to yourself. I mean, others will suffer on your journey, no question about it. But the primary journey of most and any substance abuse like that is, and whether I think a lot of addicts might want to consider what I'm pointing out, it is a slow suicide. You know you're killing yourself. I mean, you got nowhere to live. You're all fucked up. You're stealing from family and friends. You're heading down a fucking path that's going to only end in your destruction. And how many of us are how many of us really are don't realize that drugs kill, right? The substance themselves will eventually kill you. Alcohol does. It gives you that liver problem. And so that's what I mean. I just, as an ex-addict, I think that was the main driver for me was hating myself and hating the world, and then hurting myself with the use of those drugs.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I think that's common in a lot of addicts, more common than people want to discuss or even talk about, because it really is. They say acceptance is key, right?
Yeah.
And for me, part of the acceptance was understanding that when I was 18, none of the people that did whatever they did to me as a child, none of that horror, none of those people put that pipe in my mouth. I did. So anyway, I'm just giving you something. So when I look at Kohlberger, I consider the fact that as an addict, someone that allegedly stole from his sister, he was on a downward spiral. And that typically, how many of these guys do you see that are mass serial killers are junkies? I don't know of any.
Yeah, but he wasn't still an addict, was he?
No. I'm just saying though, where were they connected to being addicts? Like you look at BTK and you look at that guy up, and you just look at a lot of these serial killers, and where in their past was addiction a big problem? Never. It doesn't seem to be a common thread through mass killers.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Maybe alcoholism.
Maybe drinking, drugs, but heroin, specifically heroin, cocaine. Maybe if they're snorters or something, they had issues with it, but. I don't know. I don't see a lot of that happening. When you look at the Gigolo case, was that guy an addict?
No.
I know a guy in my city that killed 11 prostitutes. He wasn't an addict either.
Obviously he was.
Killing, right?
I mean, that's addiction.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, substance abuse, though, a little different. But yeah, you can call it an addiction. He had an addiction to hookers.
Right.
He should have moved to Hanoi. I don't know.
Damn it, Cletus.
What I do now?
Addiction to hookers.
You're addicted to hookers?
Well, I mean, your thing says that hoe.
Oh.
What are you eating, Cletus?
Nothing now, but I ate.
Not that hoe.
Stupid. Did you finish that already?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Leave that man alone. Quit judging him.
Don't you judge me.
Don't you judge me.
Every day I have to hear that. Don't you judge me.
Did you touch my drum set?
Well,
I know you touched my drum set.
What movie is that from?
Step
Brothers.
Yeah.
Duh.
Never seen it. Sorry.
What is it?
Sucks.
Oh,
Step
yeah, I
Brothers.
remember that movie, that stupid movie. It was two brothers that were adults. Their parents married, and they became step.
Will Ferrell and I forget the other guy's name.
Yeah.
All right, a little easy on the stupid side for Will Ferrell, okay? He's like 97 now.
And he's so good in Elf. Oh. So, all right. I have to know truth. What we're starting from the beginning. If you want my honest opinion, what I think what happened, if anyone cares, you don't, but you're going to hear it anyway. I think what we were talking about earlier is 100% probably the case. It is too planned for him to have just run the heck away.
Absolutely.
I really think there's a chance that someone possibly pulled in to where that little like ring-a-ding thing is that by the cemetery.
Yeah.
Went to the pond, picked him up, and hauled him back to wherever.
Very possibly a car sitting at that roundabout.
Well, and I mean, you don't even have to go as narrow as that, right? The school will work. It's 150, 200 feet.
Yeah, no, I have to, no, Cletus, I got to disagree. Too many cameras on the school.
Cameras, yeah, they would have cameras.
Way
the
too many
question
cameras.
is, can they get to the area I'm talking about without going through the school?
Well,
Wait.
between the school and that construction subdivision, there is the Masonic Lodge in that church, and the Masonic Lodge has a great big parking lot. The church is just
That's
sort
right.
of.
Well, you know what's interesting about that is I would almost be willing to bet that the Masonic Lodge had cameras on the back of their property. I would assume the school would have cameras on the football field, right? So I'm interested now that you say that. I wonder, and I'm sure that if there was footage, that law enforcement would get a hold of that. And maybe that is part of the reason why they discontinued the search locally. Just a theory, no basis behind that, just throwing that out there.
Well, and one thing, that you were talking earlier today about footage, or I don't know if you had said it, but the conversation was about footage existing, but they may not have told anybody. And I do find that interesting because every time law enforcement speaks and they get asked a question about footage or evidence, their answer is never no. It's always nothing that has led us to Sebastian's whereabouts.
Exactly. Bingo. Biggest point made of the night. It's not listening for what it's not listening for what they don't say, which is what it seems to be people's mindset is, you get done with it. It even happened today in the live we were in, with all due respect, but when a press conference gets done, the first thing you say is, well, that was a big nothing, or they didn't share anything. But
No,
they
that's not
do.
true.
But they do share something. You just have to listen for what they're sharing. You have to understand that there is an art in public relations of getting information out without holding yourself accountable for that information, right? And it's something that's often done in investigations to maybe say something that only the person involved would understand, right?
Yeah.
Or only a certain group of people involved would understand. And I think that's what's happened. I think that's the reason why Sumner County did what they did. I think if you go listen to that press conference again, and we can do it sometime, you're going to hear some things that are very much innuendoed.
I agree with that.
So you have to put your listening ears on and your talking lips down. And,
Talking lips.
yeah, because you don't have to put them other lips down. Well, I'm just saying, y'all.
We did have a public service announcement to come flash across the screen.
You did tell me to speak my fucking mind. That's y'all's motherfucking faults.
No, we want you to speak your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not doing anything wrong. It's very hard to go off the rails in here. Someone in here last night called me names and making fun of my fat mother, who I'm not even aware who it might be.
You leave his fat. Listen. You leave his fat mother alone. Okay, y'all leave his fat mother alone. I rolled over twice and I was still on top of her. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Poor mama.
But
were you running? Did you enjoy running your hands and your fingers through her back hair? Was that erotic for you?
Apparently, she's also an Ewok.
Right.
I was about to. Never mind. Nope.
I think they're so cute. I would totally do an Ewok. If it was only me and Ewoks left alive, I would do that. It's like a little teddy bear.
That tells me that's not far away from what you're used to.
Probably not.
Is it true? Is it true Sebastian's room's light was flashing?
Not flashing. No, I don't believe it was flashing, but there is conversation that his.
All right, then we'll get rid of that. We'll move on. The rumor. Right?
Well, it's his light was going, came on and went back off, right? Something like that.
Well, they said that it came on and then it didn't go off until 11:30, if I'm understanding correctly.
That sounds.
Which is pretty much right before his mother came upstairs. So what she said, he went up to bed. She sent him to bed, what, at 10 o'clock, 9, something like that?
The last sound that she heard, which was considered the thud, was at 10 o'clock.
Okay. But she had sent him up to her room while she was on the phone with her husband. Fair enough.
Well,
Yeah, it's
there's
all the
no,
same level. So
yeah, no
she didn't
upstairs.
send him up
Okay, I'm
anywhere.
sorry, but she sent him to his room, and so the light was on from approximately then until 11:30.
Correct.
Okay, that's consistent with her story. Fair, I think fair enough. From the stuff that she said and what we've been given as far as info, she sent him to bed, and she went to bed around midnight, around 11:45. His light went off at 11:30.
And I mean, I know there's a lot of talk amongst the chatters about, well, I would have run and checked on him. No, the fuck you wouldn't. Sit down, mom of the year.
Actually, I would have, but I'm a
I mean,
helicopter mom.
maybe, but if you had a whole day, you had a child that was frustrating you because they were overstimulated, it was some type of whatever, you might just hit your limit for the day as a parent. Let's stop acting like, parents don't get frustrated and aren't humans too. Like, this is what kills me. Like, somehow, whenever people become parents, they forget that they were once not a parent. And they start thinking through this idea or ideology that somehow their child is different and they're going to do it different and everybody else is wrong and blah, blah, blah.
I didn't
Right?
say she was wrong. I'm just saying that I'm so paranoid that I would have done it. But that's
Right.
just me.
I can get that. I'm not saying you're saying she's
Right.
wrong. My point is that a majority of moms wouldn't. Like, if they just wouldn't, they would yell, "Are you, you okay? Yes, mom, whatever," and they'd leave it be. We're talking about a 15-year-old boy. When they asked her, Katie, why she didn't just go into his room, her response was probably the realest answer a mom could have given.
I
He's
agree
a
with that.
15-year-old boy. I'm not walking in his room without knocking. Bet. That is because, listen, y'all want to talk about kids deserve privacy and need doors on their rooms and all these other things, but then in the same breath wonder why they go missing because there's no supervision inside of that room or they're not able to check on it. It's a catch-22. You can't have it both ways.
So one thing I am interested about with the whole light from his room, has anybody seen that or anybody confirmed that in any way, shape, or form, or is that in and of itself just a rumor? Does anybody up on this panel know? Because
I just remember somebody said a neighbor said that.
Because I think it would be important to clarify that, because if the mom says that the last contact she knew of or had was at 10 o'clock, well, 11:30 with the light going off and her not going into the room narrows the time frame of when he could have disappeared down pretty significantly.
I agree with that.
I want to say this is for truth, not feelings. This is exactly the conversation. It's a shame this isn't happening millions of times across the internet.
Agreed.
Because that understanding would help the public get involved and actually look at some of their ideas without harassing the people that are victims at this point, right? So sorry to interrupt. You guys keep going with it. It's a good topic you have.
No, I mean, your point's probably more pertinent and useful than my question, honestly, because at the end of the day, my question seems to be centered around what I think everybody has to assume is a rumor. But yeah, absolutely.
And should have been, we as YouTubers should have concentrated on that. It may have been asked in an interview.
Well, and
I mean, that's the point.
Not going down the road of personal experience in terms of evaluating things or ruling out or considering things as fact I think is real important, because otherwise you end up with rumor creations.
Right. There's a vacuum that's there.
Well, I would be willing to say this. I wouldn't be comfortable speaking on it unless I felt like that. Yeah, never mind.
You cut right out.
No, I quit talking. No, it's
Sorry.
That motherfucker said, "Oh, oh man, that's funny."
No, I personally wouldn't feel comfortable having debate over something that I didn't believe under good circumstances was accounted for. And I'm
Right.
saying that I am entertaining this specific. It's a lot different having a conversation on an open platform than having a conversation between people. So I'm trying to be careful how I say things. It's
better you just say it the way you want to say it. I mean, you're unless you're giving up some secret of an investigation that could harm people, then just say what it is. I mean, there's no road you got to follow in here. Don't censor yourself in here, bro.
Sarge, I get what he's saying. So what you're saying is the 11:30. You're referring to the 11:30 lights on situation. Is that
correct.
okay?
Correct.
Yeah, I got you.
If he's willing to entertain it, then
Right. Yeah,
I got you.
Well, if he's willing to. So my question is, the point I was trying to make is this particular issue is an important issue, and in all these interviews that these people have had, especially with Seth and all of the nonsense bullshit we've been fed, this question, this particular point, should have been clarified. Fair enough.
It has
Oh
been.
yeah.
It has
It ha-
been. So
it-
so this light did go off. There's no doubt at all the light went off at 11:30.
I don't have any doubt that the light went off at 11:30.
Do we have any evidence or statements that it did, in fact, go off at 11:30?
Yeah, somebody
Yes.
said that. Like more than one person has said that.
Yes.
And they got it from where? Is there something to support why they're saying
It's
that?
on a
Yes.
camera.
Okay. And we haven't seen the camera footage, though. We're just being told
No.
that.
Not yet.
And the police support that argument?
I'm not going to speak for law enforcement.
Do we know? Clue?
I don't know, but I mean, I'm telling you, like I've heard that in more. I almost want to say we may have heard it like when we were out there.
Maybe.
Okay.
So for me, it feels very.
It came out pretty early and then it was hushed.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like all of a sudden everybody was just not talking about that anymore.
Because it didn't go along with the agenda.
Yeah.
Right.
I
And
do
they ended up
agree
going right to
with
the
that.
corner. Right. Yeah, that's sad. Boy, we really have turned ourselves into a bunch of mucky muck.
I mean, once again, you go back to the basics and you realize how certain ideas or theories are immediately exonerated. They can't be. They're not possible. You know?
Well, yeah, but again, if focusing on that and questions like that throughout this entire episode, and regardless of what it is that true crime's particular case of interest may in fact be, a more focused view of information that's out there to clarify it. And if it can't be clarified, then it shouldn't be part of a narrative.
Agreed.
Right. And then knowing that it's there is fantastic, because later, if it does become clarified, then it'll bring you back maybe to a whole new understanding of what you're looking at. Its validity is important, though. And it seems to me, and I hate to say it over and over again, but that's why this stream is here, to point out to the viewers, you're screwing everything up. There's a lot more sensible things to be looking at than this bullshit. He hit him with a belt, or he had 5 wives. Who cares? It's just bullshit the way the entire situation's been handled online.
I agree with that. I will say this much though. When it comes to the parents, I don't think sitting around and worrying about all of that is necessarily so productive. But I think to a certain extent, watching them and what they do is a little important.
Yeah, focusing on their behaviors currently as
Right.
opposed to their reported past behaviors or actions. Yeah, I can.
Well, can we get one thing clear, right? Just because someone's staying in a camper doesn't mean they're on fucking vacation.
I agree with
Oh,
that.
fuck yeah. I mean, well, it kills me. Like, people just don't ever sit back and put yourself in this position. Put yourself in their position. Could
You
you
don't
stop
want me, no, you don't want me to do that because people would have gotten hurt. I would have handled it completely inappropriately.
Oh, I agree.
I do
I
have a
agree, but
breaking
I'm just
question
saying,
here. I do have breaking news.
What's that?
It's being stated by Original Rhinetone, who has now been posted across the base of Cock Tower, that a video with Duchess, who speaks to Katie, says she has answered a lot of these questions. So I'm curious to know if in that video with Duchess, if the question about the light going off at 11:30 was covered, because you say it answers a lot of these questions. We're pretty focused on that light, basically. So, original Rhinetone, is that question answered by Katie when she is interviewed with Duchess?
I don't remember her talking about that.
Well, this is Remain Calm is another creator, so I think what they're saying is Remain Calm did a video with Duchess, and a lot of these questions were answered because
by Duchess, not directly by Katie to a camera, but by Duchess.
Well, Duchess is in contact with Katie.
Listen, with all due respect, I can't take, if we're not going to use them as suspects, I can't use their information as substance, right? I have to eliminate them altogether. And I know that can be counterproductive in some ways, but then I have to worry about, are they giving opinions based one-sided on feelings and emotions as opposed to actuality?
That's fair.
And it appears to me that both sets of parents viewed him as incapable of doing anything and that he was a child. And I don't fully believe that that's actually how he was. I also don't believe he was a full-grown 15-year-old boy on the inside either.
Well,
so I think that's a fine line to carry. That's my only self argument with why he wouldn't have gone and met a girl per se. I think is because that would be so far out of character that it's almost unbelievable if I'm to understand how he is.
So I think a lot of the problem with the public perception of how he is comes from the words of the parents, but we have to consider the situation where the parents spoke those words, and it 90% of the time is not in conversation; it's in response to a very pointed question. So, as time has gone on, even the perception that was originally given as to who he was and what he's like, that's changed out of the words of the parents themselves.
That's true.
So I don't, I agree. I don't think he's a fully developed 15-year-old boy mentally. But I don't think things like he wouldn't walk outside without shoes on. I don't think he wouldn't get dirty. I don't think things like that have actually held water.
I don't either.
I think the more conversations have been had instead of interrogations, the more we've seen the real Sebastian be presented.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, if we're to believe that Katie and Chris had nothing to do with it, then you're getting the response of a desperate mother in shock.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that shows its face in many, many different ways. And a lot of times we as, everyday humans have a hard time processing how someone might process it different than us. But it's real easy to piss from the sidewalk when you've never had to walk on that sidewalk.
Yeah.
That was a urination joke.
I'm trying to figure out where Sarge has gone. He's never been this quiet.
Well, that was a well-timed joke because I was taking a piss.
I figured that was going to be the answer I got.
Everything on this show comes together like a glove. We're such a well-oiled machine. Excuse me?
Your Alexa told us you were pissing.
Oh, did she? I got to have a chant with her. I renamed her, though. I call her Computer because I'm a Star Trekker. Love Star Trek.
That explains so much. Holy shit.
Oh, my God. Here we go. I've been defined. Again. Clue?
I mean,
that's I don't know. That just doesn't make any sense to have an Ewok as a mother but be a fan of Star Trek. This doesn't work out somehow.
Well, it's because he's technically a Klingon.
That's true.
That's what. Hey, just the facts, man. Just the facts, man. Just the facts. If you remember Dragnet, that's why I picked Sergeant Friday as the moniker I go by.
Oh, I just thought you had an obsession with the Addams Family.
There's no Sergeant Friday on the Addams Family.
No, there's just a Friday, but never mind.
Oh, okay. No, no, I don't. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so where were we?
Sorry.
I don't know if
Seth
I'm
would have
helping you
found that.
make fun of me or not, but I hope so.
Seth would have found that joke funny and very close to home.
So, there's a model that I think I'm going to share this model with you, and maybe you'll agree there's a model to live by, right? It's impossible to please everyone, but pissing them off is a piece of cake, and I love cake.
Did you light a cigarette as you said that?
Absolutely.
That okay. All right, sir. I see what you did there.
Are you calling me a circus act?
No, bozo.
The bozo.
You sound like the kind of guy that could get a ping pong ball in the number 10.
What the fuck does that mean?
You
Yeah, I don't
obviously
know.
didn't watch much morning TV growing up, did you?
No.
I don't know what it means either. So
Y'all never watched Bozo where they never mind.
I'll wear
No.
that badge. Listen, I'll wear that badge. I don't mind.
Right,
Whatever people throw at me, I'll put on as a new piece of clothing. I have no problem.
Okay, could I have said that you remind me of Mr. Bucket? Balls pop out of your mouth. I was
Oh,
trying
I
to be
love
nice.
Mr. Bucket. The balls pop out of his mouth. I miss
I
the
don't even know what that is.
I loved him. I just really like the jingle and the fact that he
Shocker.
was balls.
Such a shocker.
That was so cool. Like he would just go poop, poop, and there went a ball.
Listen,
Balls everywhere.
So
It
when she
certainly
was
makes
trying
that
to
middle
figure out
name
what
make
she
sense.
wanted to be when she grew up,
that's what I was going to say. So you're saying at a young age, you you developed a fascination.
no,
with
Cletus.
coming out
No,
of the mouth.
Cletus.
You really want to complain about that?
I'm not
Cletus, no.
complaining, I'm just
Cletus.
stating
Cletus.
fact.
What are you drinking with that ice moving around?
I'm sorry.
Somebody better
Water.
be careful because I feel like there might be a 611 phone call tonight
What the hell's that?
where you have to dig a hole and make sure you don't hit a line before you do it.
I thought it was 811.
See, I told you. See right there, she told on herself. Already knows it pre-planned. That's premeditation. See, I purposely said the wrong numbers and you walked right off into that damn trap.
If you think for 5 seconds that my fat ass would put up the energy to bury him, you are crazy. I would find the nearest pig pen and be like, here you go, boys.
First of all, we already know you've got a backhoe stashed away somewhere. That's where the hoe comes into the clue.
Damn. Now,
Okay.
who's in the background laughing?
That's the hoe.
Hey.
Is that Mama Ho?
That's Mama
Maybe.
Clue.
That's a tribe up in northern Massachusetts. The northern Ho, the mother Ho,
The Mama Hoe.
Hey,
the Mama Ho.
stars.
Oh my God! What do you think of our Your Ass Hurts News Network there, Mama?
I like it.
God,
I love it. I want some more of it.
I tried
should-
so hard. I can't rise above it. Sorry.
Well, that's because
Well, I think your family reunion. You should book the location. It's the Lig My Balls Ballroom at Cock Tower.
And that's where you can also have your wedding ceremonies at
Wedding
the same
ceremonies. We'll even entertain funerals. We don't mind.
time. That's dead business.
That's a dead business.
Oh.
Larry Dean, Mom said it was in regular classes. I don't know what that is, but it's meant for somebody, I suspect.
You know, they're the last ones to let you down.
Oh my God.
Oh boy.
It's cutthroat around there from every Friday to every Tuesday.
Now, what area of the country are you from there? Truth, not facts.
America.
You're from America.
That's
America.
right.
There you go. We're from the accent. We're going to try to figure it out by the accent. A couple of key questions. Key questions. You got to answer them honestly. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Did you marry your sister?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
You loud.
do you come from areas that would be considered mountainous?
My sister, yes.
Does she have stick toes?
You slept with my sister too.
Yeah. Yeah, it was painful, but I enjoyed it.
She told me about it. That's weird.
That's awesome. So I would say you probably come from around the Tennessee area, like Clue. Cletus.
I mean, you could say that, but my family tree says more Alabama, but we're definitely from Tennessee.
Oh, that's awesome. That's kind of where that's where the Mamaho tribe
First of
originated.
all, listen here. Let's be very clear. Rolling Tide will never roll through my blood. So I am from Tennessee, although fuck you too, UT as well, because the only UT that matters is the University of Texas. Hook 'em horns. Anyway, we'll continue.
So you're from Texas then?
No, I'm not. I'm from somewhere that starts with a T and ends with a T.
T and starts with a T. And
Tits.
there's T's in the middle. He's a taint. He came from the taint.
I was waiting for you to stop talking, and I was going to say that myself. That's funny.
Well, taint had too much.
Listen, the spelling that y'all have the ability to do is super deep. I appreciate it. 4 letters. What the fuck?
Listen, if we can't make fun of our guests, what's the point of the show?
I have a question, Sarge.
Shocker.
Yes, ma'am.
Shocker. Have you alerted your guest? You know, it's public service announcement. We do have a health network. Have you
And
alerted?
you're in charge of it, but you're in charge of that health network, and I expect you to pass that combined infinite knowledge of yours onto the guests.
No,
Right,
thank you.
but-
No, thank you. I have EBT.
Hang on there.
You explained it so much better. Have you informed him about the infection of the perineum?
Oh my God, that's a horrific way to go. Have you ever heard of that before?
Continue.
Truth, not feelings. Have you ever heard of people that died from an infection of the perineum? Do you even know what the perineum is? Truth, not feelings. Are you there?
I mean, yeah, that's the taint. It's the balls
taint.
of the butthole.
That's a horrific way. Can you imagine being killed by your own taint?
A taint. Imagine that.
And the key to that death is some medication for diabetes. Apparently, it could cause fatalities with an infection of your taint. And when I heard that side effect, I can't get it out of my head. That's got to be a horrible way to go.
I mean, I guess it's better than urethra cancer of the penis.
Well, I don't know. That taint is pretty fucking unique.
It's so tender too. Like, ugh. Like, ugh.
It ain't no way. It ain't never crossed my mind it could kill me.
Wow.
I mean, it's technically necrotizing fasciitis, but
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's a hell of a side effect. Jeez.
I mean, no, that's the erection.
Oh, from the what? Where do we go now? Oh, from the tip of Cock Tower.
Flesh-eating
First
erections.
News Network brings you truth, not feelings.
Listen, you're not getting monetized ever.
I don't care. I don't need the money. We're not here to make money. We're out here to try to slap some people around and hopefully get them to realize to stop going after the bullshit. Leave it alone. It can play all by itself. So yeah, you did bring up good points and good things to consider. And I wish we did have a definitive answer, but even if the lamp went out at 11:30, that's just more in line with the story that I think that I understand. Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what story you understand now. We've gone down a lot of different avenues.
Well, let's you put on the bed the story that they gave us. The story that they gave us that seems to fit into that description.
Yeah, yes, yeah, no. I mean, I don't mean to be oppositional, although I might have a little disorder that goes with that. But I think that
I apologize.
Was that a fucking parrot?
Is that a parrot?
Someone tell their cockatoo to shut the hell up.
That's Sarge's sound effect machine that he.
It sounds like something that he. Never mind.
Well, I was only trying to hit a sound effect.
It sounds like you hit an octave set.
Oh shit!
You grabbed your tank, didn't you? First of all, I want to know how you got a recording of my mother.
Well, I can't really get into that, but it did take me 2.5 tanks of gas to get around her.
That's interesting because she's in a box right now, and Jurgens wouldn't even bring her back.
Well, I was looking for this, but that's why I took so much gas. I couldn't find her.
Well, listen, don't let it smear.
Oh God.
Are you gonna finish what you were saying? Because I'm still over here waiting. Like, what?
Yeah, me too.
We've been here 2 hours. I'm still waiting.
Wow.
Oh,
So remind him what his topic was. Maybe give him a little nudge.
He was talking about. Well, fiance here said he believes, or no, wait, who said that? Something about the story being in line.
the light going out at 11:30 being in line.
Well, I
with the
mean,
story that they gave us.
It is, but it's from an exterior point of view, right? Like she's not going to be able to give any insight on whether or not the light was seen from the neighbor's house or the road or, the eagle up on the telephone line. That's
I
not
see.
information that she's going to be able to directly give. That would be secondary information, which brings a level of doubt. Unless it's firsthand, it creates a level of
I
doubt.
agree
Doesn't
with
mean
you
it's
100%.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just means that you can't take it as direct evidence. Direct evidence is see, hear, touch.
Taste, smell, feel, all
Well,
of that.
so yeah, like if you've got a camera showing a light going out and the timestamp on that camera is 11:30, in order to corroborate that, somebody had to witness it from the source of the light.
Correct.
Or-
Otherwise, it's say the neighbor says, or the guy down the street, or the elephant in the corner says, "Hey, I happened to look out my window around 11:30 and noticed the light go out."
Yeah.
Well, how long had the light been on? Well, I didn't notice that. I just noticed that the light went out. Well, then we have to use some common sense to say, okay, we know that based on Katie, that at 10 o'clock was her last verbal communication that she has stated with Sebastian. So
Right.
then we have an hour right there that is unaccounted for with him in his room, right? From the last time someone talked to him to the time the light went off. Now, if we're to believe that they got off the phone with each other at midnight, then he would have already been in the dark for 30 minutes. Here's where it gets interesting. Did she give him and see him take his nightly meds? Because if she did and he did, right, then 30 minutes in the dark with sleeping medication would throw you so off of your rhythm even more that you wouldn't be able to perform essentially this entire escape, runaway, whatever it would be, without messing up and making a mistake.
Mm.
So there's some variables to that. Did she tell him to go take his medicine and he pretended to? Did she give it to him? That 30 minutes between the time the light went out, 30 minutes, 25 minutes, 35 minutes, whatever it is, in that range, right? He would have fallen asleep 30 minutes laying there in the dark unless he was on a device talking to somebody.
Yeah.
Or he had a plan to leave the premises after she went to bed.
Yeah.
Maybe. It very well may have, but then you would think he would keep the light on longer. There was a reason he turned that light off at 11:30. If your plan
Well, I'm
was to
sure
run it,
so that when the mother went upstairs to bed, there wasn't light shining from
there
under his
was
door.
no upstairs. She didn't have to go to his end of the
Where
room.
did
It's on
where did
separate
she
ends
have
of the
to?
houses.
Where did she go to
Mhm.
bed in relation to him?
Two different sides of the house.
Yeah, the opposite end of the house is their
Right.
room.
Okay, so she wouldn't even have to see if there was a light on under his
No,
door.
no.
Okay.
And I think
Okay,
the question was asked, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Initially, it was asked if when she got up, and this may just be in my head, so tell me if I'm wrong. When she got up to go to bed, the question was asked, "Did you see a light on? Did you?" I think it was, "Did you see a light on?" And she responded with no. But I'm not 100% on that. I could be wrong.
No.
Right. How do we know that he was on meds for sleeping?
Well, we don't.
That's what. Well,
That's what
once again,
Seth
that comes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's from Seth.
Yeah.
So we don't know if that's true either.
Well, it was supposed. Well, here's where it gets interesting. that he hadn't seen, in his own words, Sebastian in a month and a half. Yet he said that Sebastian was on new medication.
Yeah, I can see a
which I don't even think is actually 100% true.
Well, but if it is, and there's a change in medication, there could be a drastic change in personality.
I do agree.
There are side effects to certain psychoactive medications or behavioral based medications that could cause, someone of X way of thinking to completely, you know, switch up.
Yeah, so it's not. That's the thing too. It's some of the info is not confirmable at this point, right?
Well, so here's my thought on the medication aspect, right? I can't imagine law enforcement going into that house, finding out that he takes medication, getting his prescription bottle, and counting how many are left. And at that point, they should be able to determine when, based on some level of reasonability and fact, when he actually took his last dose.
Yeah,
unless
but unless
unless it was pre-planned, guys. Remember, you're right. I would say that you're right, but I have to play this devil advocate side because I think it's super important not to challenge everybody in a negative way, but to challenge in a positive, right?
Yeah.
If that's the case, then you have to also look at the other factors of him being able to get away, being so precise about the route he took, the pre-planning of if there was talk about going in the pond. That pond is very, very important. Everything else aside, the pond's important. The radio dispatch is important, right? Even if we don't take any of what mom, dad, or stepdad says, there is enough information in that first 4 hours, 5 hours, that most 80% of it has been denounced or said didn't happen, like we're fucking crazy.
yeah,
Right?
when
It's almost like this, the media plan of if you say it's not real long enough, they'll believe it's not real. And the only reason you would go after it that hard and try to shut it down that quick is if it had shit. If it had some substance to it.
Yeah.
yeah, well,
It's
and two, you got to think even with your way of thinking, right? Like, okay, so there's medicine gone. People cheat medicine and don't take that shit all the time.
Well, my point was more in regards to, let's say that the sleeping pill or the sleeping medication is a real thing, right? Well, it would be pretty easy to figure out if he actually took it. If what we've been told is that he left with no shoes, the only thing missing was his flashlight and his glasses.
I don't
Then
believe
that,
those facts. I don't believe those facts are true.
Really?
Yeah, but
No,
they're the
I
only
think
facts
that
we have, though, aren't they?
mm, I think that you're giving a mom of, once again, an autistic child a lot of credit for memory, right? Memorizing how many shoes he has and he doesn't have, remembering what, there's so many. I don't know. I don't know. I don't. If you didn't see him go out the door, how do you know he had a flashlight in his hand? I know you could say, well, it wasn't there when I woke up. That tells me nothing about whether he took it. Because if someone came into the house and assisted him out, they could have taken it.
Well, I will say this to your point, right? How you say your, like, one of your theories is maybe locked out or something like that, right?
Uh huh.
To your point, I will say there's one thing she said that has always kind of sat with me. And I'm like, that's such a weird way to word that. When she says, I don't know why he walked out that door.
Yes.
And it's very specific to, like,
Well, Seth said it too. Seth said in the you got to remember, Seth has jumped around. I'm not saying this in a manner of let's go back to the parents. Okay, please understand that. But if we're going to talk about what was said, Seth has come at this from at least three different accusational points, right? Because in the beginning, he said the same thing. He walked out the door. And then it went to he ran away and was found by homeless people.
yeah,
And the homeless people took care of him. And when he started talking about that, I thought to myself, this man has lost his mind,
right.
right? And then it went from that to I've got investigators and they're tracking things down. And he came on that live and he was so happy. And then he said the famous line that will haunt him forever. And it was, "You're not asking the right questions."
Oh yeah, on
Seth,
dollars.
no, hold on, Seth. What the fuck was the right question?
No, I'm with you on that. Like
Fuck
what?
every, fuck everything else. What was the right question?
Yeah, I don't know.
He said it with joy. He
I
said it with a
know.
smile. He said it with the Joker face.
Well, he came, and it's what's funny is he came out and actually defended that statement. Remember on somebody else's
On the
panel?
next one he did, because he followed the same suit he does in a lot of things. He'll say something, then there will be a lot of drama about something he said, and then he'll come out the next time he talks, and
And
he'll throw an explanation either directly or indirectly as to what everybody's wanting to know about. And he did that with that situation. The next time he was on a panel, he said, "Now you're asking the right questions.
yeah,
Something that I can take and use."
Yeah, it's confusing with all the involvement, the parents and all the sidetracking. I mean, it's
Well, no, the confusion comes
there's
from
an.
Seth. The confusion doesn't come from Katie. People are trying to
Well,
tear Brooke.
I do get that. I do get that. I know their target's a Seth. I get where all that shit stirring started.
But you have to ask yourself why.
I have been.
That's the
Well,
whole thing. Why, as a parent, if all you want to talk about is Team Sebastian, and if you're not Team Sebastian, then fuck off. Why are you not being Team Sebastian?
Well, I give you my, the most innocent possibility or reason I can come up with is immaturity and who you're surrounding yourself with and what you're willing to follow. Because a lot of the shit that he has chased has been based on exactly what he says. He watches chats to get ideas. A lot of the shit he's run with has come from or has been closely intertwined with YouTube.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that Seth is prepared for.
Can I offer this up for Seth? And I'm not throwing shade for the guy, but I'm telling you that his actions could also describe a man that sees himself as a victim in all of these situations, including now his son is gone out of his control. Now, you can then see a man coming out after people that he feels are the ones that victimized his life. You can actually explain what he's doing that way.
Well, and when I say maturity, I'm not throwing shade at the guy. I'm just stating,
It's bad behavior. There's no doubt. Listen, it's unacceptable behavior. He shouldn't be doing it, but it's very consistent with someone in a situation that's always blames everyone else for their troubles. And now this befalls him. And now he's digging up and pointing out all the troubles he's had because of these people in the past, including his son.
What brought Seth to Middle Tennessee?
His son, allegedly.
Right.
Am I the only person who believes that Seth is still in love with Katie?
No.
No.
And am I the only one that stands on the ground and stands on the business of, if I was standing in front of a man that I believed hurt my child, that I wouldn't take their head off? Right?
I don't disagree with it either. Right.
So then if we know all this, Chris is only saying words. He doesn't believe what he's saying. Because if you believed what you were saying, you would not be able to control the animalistic father inside of you. And we know that he has an anger problem, very, very obvious. And I think so does, I say anger problem, outburst issue, right? So you can't put all those together and then put the man that you're saying did all these horrible things and allowed these horrible things to happen to your kid and not go to jail.
Well, he portrays himself the same way that I've developed my perception of Sebastian, because it said Sebastian has fits of rage, right? And he's developed ways of dealing with that, and it's outbursts and things like that. And I see that same thing with Seth.
I don't know. I think that it's going to get a whole lot muddier real soon, and I think that there's going to be some inmates that are going, or prior former inmates that are going to start interjecting themselves in and telling things that they may or may not have experienced under his watch.
That would not surprise me in the least. I've got no lie to tell.
I believe that that's something that will probably be something we have to look at, and we will see.
Well, from a drama aspect, it's the logical progression because
Well, yeah, the whole thing is going to turn on him for doing what he's done. I mean, it's
and that would
the
be
circus
the
is in town.
logical that would be the logical source of the drama from his side because he's moved here not extremely long ago, and he doesn't seem to have a whole lot of associates. So the associates he would have would be inmates or ex-inmates, or well, I won't even say other people that work in the jail because he's only been there a short time. So
Right.
It don't take long to find weakness.
yeah.
No, and but again, none of that indicates that they've done anything that connects them to the missing of the child. So that's the nasty thing about a lot of these roads is that knowing all of that may help you form an opinion about somebody. However, does that connect him to the disappearance of his own son? At this point,
Well,
I
I
don't
think
see how
that
any of that works that way.
Sarge, I disagree with you because I think that if we're going to look at it from the beginning again, right, and we're going to take the parents out as suspects, it doesn't mean we have to take the parents out as reasoning for things to happen, right? And when you're in a correctional setting, and new to that correctional setting, it is very possible that you interrupt someone's operation or you step on some toes or you do something that you said you were going to do and you didn't do. There's a lot of dynamics to that type of career path that could be detrimental to your family.
Right, but how does it apply to him being involved with the child being missing? See, here's what I'm saying.
It
Is
wouldn't be
all of
that
that
he's
stuff.
involved, but he would be the catalyst too. There's involvement without being criminal.
Or you're trying to come up with a reason why the kid may have left or he was taken. See, here's what I'm trying to say though. Understanding what the parents did back in the day or 8 weeks ago is only relevant if it connects to the disappearance. In other words,
Well, it could.
of course it could, but there's nothing supporting that it does. And so getting into the depth of all of that is a distraction from getting into where's the next area we can search. Where are the searchers going? Where are the posters going? There's nothing on the emphasis of not only finding the kid, which is going to tell you what happened to him. I think the only solution to this case is going to be actually finding Sebastian. There's nothing else you're going to solve this case, right? And that's where the effort I think needs to be pushed. Not, I mean, we could keep digging into the psychoanalyzing these people until our head falls off. And does any of that have any bearing on the fact this kid went missing? And I just don't see us connecting that until Seth is found, if we can connect it at all.
But yeah, I agree reluctantly, right? And what I mean by that is from a standard perspective, yes, but from a profiling perspective, no.
No, but the
Past
problem is
has a
people
whole lot to
profile
do.
people on. Listen, people profiled Chris and Katie, and they've been following and stalking them since the minute they profiled.
There's a respectfully, there's a big difference between amateur profiling and profiling for answers and results. I'm not
Well,
talking about. I'm just saying that in general, when you are looking at the character of somebody or trying to figure out who somebody would be, who would be appealing to that somebody, you have to use past, you have to use um, people that were around, opportunities for anger. All those things have to be explored. It's not, it does have to do with the case when you have no answers to why the boy went missing, whether he walked away or not. You have to look at all angles. I just have to disagree.
There's a difference between developing a theory based on reasonability versus chasing a theory without any fact. And I think that's what you're saying, Sarge.
Right.
What I'm
it's a
saying is that
dangerous road.
because that's how the internet creates its witch hunt. See,
right. It's not that it's or unusable or even a bad idea. It's just you got to consider the audience that's taking part in it as well.
right, and
But I can profile somebody without making it negative, right?
but it isn't you that does it. Listen, here's what I'm trying to say. It's not you that does it, but doing that publicly on social media, it turns into a circus.
It can if the creator allows it to.
No, they take it to other creators. You see, that's the reason. One of the main reasons where I'm out here trying to bash people in the head. It's not you. I understand your intent isn't to accuse falsely. You're looking at the person to get an understanding of what they may be. Is typical of them with is who they are. I get it, but people then find things in there. Oh, he hit him with a belt. Oh my God! Look what this inmate said, and they run with it. And in the midst of all of that, little Sebastian's still out there. That's kind of so. I don't have I think in like a conversation that's not internet bound. That's good reasoning and thinking and theorizing. But these people they'll go knock on the jail's door to try to get documents against Seth if they hear anything coming out of there. That's what I'm saying. The community is crazy.
But yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to call out is that what you're saying, this should be a normal conversation 10,000 adults should have without running out of here with pitchforks to accuse Seth or something or Chris. And unfortunately, that's not the experience that we get online. So, your points are valid, but I'm just suggesting that those points do give people the path to run down the road they all seem to flock to, which is let's find another demon. You know what I mean? Who can we demonize today? We're gonna turn back onto Katie. Didn't we start with her or Seth? So if people find out stuff on him from jail and it gets onto the internet, here goes a whole new. It's like Kentucky Downs.
I think that's one of the reasons why I've put so much thought into doing my own channel. The problem with it is I don't have the patience that a lot of people have, right? I feel like if, once again, you can set a group of people up that are willing to come on twice a week as a panel and openly discuss things with facts, then the results that you're going to get are going to be surprising. I understand that, the way you feel about wanting to smack people in the head. I get it. Sometimes I find myself yelling at my phone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or cussing my phone out like you're just blah, blah, blah. But I think that the only way to combat misinformation is correct factual information. And if there are certain creators that would get together, and I would be more than willing to be a part of it, that made that their mission without all the bullshit, then the people are going to come watch that want to come watch. And then what you're going to find is that these YouTubers that are doing some of this or pandering to some of this are going to use your show in their show, and they're going to find out real quick that they can't really make fun of you because you're making valid points.
And here, just so you know, Cletus knows I'm famous for doing this. Part of the reason I've been like going along with and going in and diving into this topic is also to just show that whatever happens, we bring it to ourselves and it becomes the center of the discussion. When in fact it may not in fact be the thing we should be focused on. And what I'm saying is we do it to ourselves, and the basis under which we experience this seems very logical and sensible. But what we seem to forget, and we need to start paying attention to, is that our fellow people out here in fucking social media land don't take that approach with this information, factual or not. As a matter of fact, the more outrageous it is, the more of a crowd you get following it. And that is what needs to be stopped. And that's what makes it dangerous. So the truth faces a lot of hurdles, but the biggest hurdle is that a lot of people will take a partial truth and connect it to a lie to make a statement. And people will run down the road with it. Chris took the kid because he did this, he did that, he did this, he did that. And the next thing you're left with is there's a whole bunch of facts. He did do this, he did do that. And it just gets crazy. And that's what I mean. So even good intentioned conversation oftentimes will go off the rails by the viewer because they'll bring it to JLR and they'll twist it into something that it's not. That's why I like bashing the viewer and telling them it's our fault this happens, because we do it to ourselves. We let the least common denominator rule the roost. So, and all the discussion that we've had, there's a whole bunch of stuff people could take from that and start making trauma.
But you know what? You want to know something that's great, Sarge? You know what? You want to know something that's like really fucking awesome?
More
That
awesome
if
than Illuminati? Wait,
yes, even more awesome than Illuminati, way more. Listen,
here we go. Queen of the Mods.
if our theory that Sebastian is alive and well, then no matter what information is being put out there, his name and his picture is being still shown. And that's a blessing in itself. Over and beyond all the bullshit, all the arguing, all of that.
Mhm.
Remember the old adage, no press, no bad press is still, as good as any other. Like it's press is press, right?
Right.
And
And
if people are being entertained, respectfully, if people are being entertained by this, as much as I may have some moral issues with entertainment and the missing and a missing child, I also understand that there is a lot of people that have a lot of time at home because their spouse may be whatever reason, right? And they need something to be able to feel like they're a part of something. And a lot of parents who are dealing with, struggles with their children will use these cases as a way to feel like they're doing something good and positive. And so I will stand by, even if I don't agree with some of these YouTubers, even if I think that their platform and the way that they run their platform is extremely distasteful, they're still getting his name out there.
That's kind of what I said yesterday, right? Because Seth and the way he's behaved, it is kind of like a catch-22 because at the end of the day, all of the drama, it really does just recycle Sebastian's name over and over.
it does do
You know
that.
what I
And
mean?
but look at the past cases over the last year where all that drama then resulted in the drama being all misplaced, and they just jump away. They don't learn anything from it. There's no reflection that maybe we shouldn't have attacked these people like that. Right. And here's the thing, they create tragedy within tragedy. Well, the person that you attacked and the people that you impugned and the people like Chris that you get chased around, you hurt their lives, you impact others. So sometimes you got to ask yourself, is the result all that matters? I mean, if that's the case, then we could be even a lot more effective in how we do things. We're supposed to be in a nation of laws and a society. And so it matters how we address these issues. To keep his name in there, is it worth destroying the parents?
If my kid came home,
So the
I
cost
would.
is what I'm
Oh,
saying.
I'm just gonna say, if my kid came home, I wouldn't give a shit what you thought about me.
No, but if it impacted your daily life for years to come, you don't. This is what I'm saying is we really do have an impact. As Cletus points out, this is real, and there's just no reason we shouldn't be telling ourselves that to do the right thing, the decent thing, is how we should address these cases and address even more and spend less time on the drama. What Chris did with the belt.
Well,
Right?
I put a question up last night, and I don't even remember whose live I was in. It may have been Clues, but what happens if this strong woman or weak woman, however you want to look at her, just can't take it anymore? Knows she didn't do anything to her child, has been compared to some really horrific people, and then can't even breathe due to the, bullying. I'll use the word bullying.
Right.
And she makes an ultimate decision in her life.
And
What's the
that's
conversation?
kind of
What's the
listen. That's kind of what I'm
conversation?
trying to say. When we run down a lot of these theories, it opens up a lot of holes for these crackpots to run down and start digging into stuff. That's why I'm saying I don't really want to know what he did at the prison, and I don't really care what any prison inmate has to say about Seth. It's got, unless that prison inmate says I conspired with him or implicates him directly in the disappearance of that young man, I don't give a shit what a prison person has to say about Seth. And that's what I'm saying. We shouldn't either, because there's millions of thousands of other cases we can include in our daily streams they're going to help other people as well as just Sebastian. That's what I'm saying. Is the reward worth the cost that we're spending as a massive group of people, billions of us, focusing on all this bullshit rather than things that matter? I mean, I think we could change the world if we focused on what matters, and we can include a lot more things that matter. Just thinking of millions of hours invested in pointing out how horrible Chris is. It's insanity.
Well, I can agree with you on that. I don't disagree. Here's what I find interesting. And once again, I have some issues with it. Number one, why do we have PR people now?
Well, the PR.
That's a serious question.
Well, the PR person, I've got no. I have to draw the conclusion that the PR person is the PI as well.
All right, cool, even better. Why is a PI also your PR?
Well, I think PR has pretty much been shown to cause disruptions in the lives of those people associated with this case. The proud feet are an example. So you can fault Seth or impugn Seth for getting PR, but maybe he realized what he did was fucking stupid and he needs a better way to talk and he's going to try to save himself.
Well, I mean, but
Right?
still, that leads to more questions.
But who cares?
Seth had a PR person before he had a fucking attorney, but he's
And
driving around with a truck with an attorney on the fucking side of it. Let's get real.
so
So you're telling me that? Never mind. I can't even.
I'm just
It's
saying
so
you can
it's
look at all
frustrating.
of those things and make a conclusion, but none of those conclude what happened to Sebastian.
But
They might.
They might. That's the thing.
Wow.
Until we can exclude them, right? That's part of open discussion. We can't just say, nope, that's out. You have to give reason for that to be out. That's how you proactively discard different, assumptions or ideas. Otherwise, you're throwing away things without processing it, and that's not due process.
Well,
And
Sarge, I got to point out, we do the same thing in the Idaho case. To be
well,
fair,
and
we
that's,
do, because the police are telling us that Dylan was sleeping. She saw someone and he left. You and I both, we would say that that is the first suspect.
the important thing to
Right.
remember, right, in terms of the purpose of this channel, is to show that these discussions, these topics, these thoughts and ideas related to things with a particular case can be discussed. It doesn't
Yes.
have to result in lunacy and just complete fucktardism. Like it just doesn't have to. It doesn't have to lead to running out and standing in the street going, "Where's the baby?" or chasing Chris and Katie down in Mississippi.
Yeah, or holding up signs. What did
Coming,
that sign say? What did the sign say about him?
Who?
Chris, didn't someone hold up a sign?
yeah, it says
Repent.
repent. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, hold on. But then, interestingly enough, Seth came on like Seth does and says, what does he have to repent for? But then the next day goes on and accuses Seth and Katie. It's
Yeah.
it's the multi-personalities that are showing, and that matters.
I agree 100%. But that's just me. It's just because I don't know. I feel like really having a grasp of the people is important, and on all sides. Like,
I'm just saying, if we know, I'm sorry. I understand, Sarge, what you're saying. However, Katie and Chris say he did not have access to the internet at our house. We don't know whether that's true or not. But Seth says he did. But in the beginning, he said he didn't, right? That is a big part of a missing person's case is the access to the internet.
Well, and I
Right.
think
And the police, listen. And the police haven't really told us one way or the other. So we're left with these conflicting statements, right?
I don't know if they're conflicting. I think there's two different rules at two different sets of houses.
agreed.
I agree with that too.
So
I
then
agree
but
with
we
it
have
too.
to take that into consideration because those are abnormities, or they're sorry, those are differences in environments. And when we're talking about someone who has a chromosomal deletion, and we're talking about someone who has been diagnosed with autism, changes in environment and structure absolutely matter. And it goes to build the character and the mindset that Sebastian may have been in if he chose to run away. So then, in fact, it does matter.
Right. But again, we have no way to have any that information I understand could be part of the thinking process of looking at this, but that information doesn't give us any answers to what happened. And nothing will, I think, until we find the boy. And so if we're going to delve into these profiles about the parents, that I mean, it's as likely we find him unharmed and did this on his own as it is somebody lured him or something nefarious happened. All of those possibilities are real. And no deference is given, open deference to the fact that the information we have is as accurate as we're going to get, and take it at face value. And we still should be looking for Seth. As to whether a prison inmate says something about, or Sebastian, I mean, whatever a prison inmate says is just going to add to the distraction and focus on the parents again.
Well, I agree with
you. And I don't see any value in that. I certainly don't, unless the crime included something that was pretty likely to include someone that was near the kid, right? Like he goes missing at a mall. You should be looking for some guy that grabbed him. There's something in it. Now you could start analyzing the guys that were on the camera. I get it. But in this case, you know,
mind you, I've stuck with I believe he either left on his free will or he was taken somewhere under false pretenses. Those two things I stand by.
Right.
You know?
So again, trying to delve into the parents is going to help the community. What the community as a whole does is just turns it into a witch hunt.
I see what you're saying, but when you do that, you're opening up the availability of people who had access to him. Access to him gives people the ability to plan things with him or about him. So if one parent is saying there was no access in our home and the other parent is saying there was access in our home, then you have to look at the parent that says there's access in the home before you would look at the other.
Because I would want to see the electronic connections. Yeah, I get that. That's all part of how that you would suspect your police agencies would handle it.
But we're also assuming that the parents gave up all devices. There's a lot of assuming that has to go on that's not comfortable.
But look, it's the other way, is assuming that they didn't. No matter what you do, you're putting yourself in a position to assume, and it's from that position where all these conspiracies start and all of these witch hunts start. And that's what I'm trying to show. If you only deal with the facts at hand and then try to assert those or place people within the given facts. I do this with Dylan Morrison on the Idaho 4, but I don't use an if, coulda, woulda, shoulda, maybe. I only use the facts that were spoken or printed words in the documents available to us. And you can make a very strong case for her involvement. Doesn't mean she did anything. You can make a stronger case for Dylan than you can for Brian. But again, I'm not taking things outside of the case or bringing in other people. I'm not attacking her person. I don't care what she did as a child. I don't go after her or her parents. I use the data that's there, and it tells a story. Accurate or inaccurate, I don't know. And here in these cases, when you look at Donna Imes and the Kansas City 3 and Sebastian, they've all become these big blow-up side stories that have nothing to do with what really happened.
Yeah,
that's all I'm trying to. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, guys.
No,
I think if you were able to go into the oddities in their behavior without necessarily saying they did something,
right?
Which I think you should be able to do.
And I think the fundamental issue, right, with discussing the theories and discussing all of it is 100% valid if your true intent is to lead somewhere, come to some type of logical and reasonable conclusion. The problem that exists amongst the social media is the viewer will take a piece of a discussion and run to some outrage vendor and throw that piece to them so that they go and promote that new theory.
You said something. He said something critical. And that you take a logical, like, I have an understanding of what happened here. And all this other stuff has nothing to do with how I particularly see what happened here. And so until more information comes, I see what I see. Like in any of the other cases we've had, right? I saw what I saw with Donna Imes. I didn't see bad hospital workers. I didn't see a cop doing anything wrong to her, no matter what the masses were saying. And the masses were attacking and demeaning and humiliating these people that had contact with this woman. And in the end, those people did absolutely what they were supposed to do with their contact with her. And that's what I mean by theories. What happens is someone in the herd grabs some and makes some crazy theory out of what you're saying. One guy in Idaho 4 can literally see reflections in asphalt, literally can see them and tell you what he's seeing. It's crazy. And I'm telling you that stuff gets fed when we start trying to parse out theories and we get into the areas we shouldn't. I agree with the theory based on the facts that they've given us that we can verify, and nothing else. I don't care what Chris did or didn't do 10 years ago. And as to whether it plays into this or not, it doesn't. Because there's no information given to the public that indicates that it even possibly could. At this point, you can almost say that both the men have been excluded because they were both other places when the kid went missing. And I'm sure that's completely verified simply because these men are both free and still ancillary contact with the cops, right? So I think you can eliminate the phones.
I don't know about that. That is a good question, probably for you, Truth. If they
I'm
can't
sorry.
prove,
Hold on. Oh, no, that was my sound effect for my shoulder medicine. Continue.
Better take one for your head after talking with me, right?
So
Take two.
is that our cue to put your GoFundMe in the chat?
Oh man, too soon.
Oh shit, shoulder
Too
boy.
soon.
Oh no, I know someone else with a bad shoulder that takes meds. Hook this guy up to a machine. Let's ask him some questions. Maybe he'll fall asleep. Right? I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's all this ancillary shit that doesn't really. All it does is
Hold on, that's not funny. I've been out doing a lot.
Yeah.
okay, well, fair enough. What's a lot? I'm just.
Well, you know, see what I had done was
for the past couple of days at least, you've spent several hours on YouTube panels.
Well, I don't have social media.
Oh well, then that wasn't you. That was an imposter.
It could have been my PR team.
Are they from Alabama too?
No, I pay them a lot of money voluntarily.
From New York. We got good PR. We got good PR reps up here. Just look at our politicians. You'll see.
Could you imagine Sarge as a fucking PR rep?
No.
No, I'm not. Listen, I wouldn't make Sarge my PP rep.
Well, lucky for you, I'm committed to the cock hour.
That's a little cocky.
Oh my God.
Downtown Beijing.
And it's ballsy also.
That's pretty deep.
The Lig My Balls Convention Center. Book your time
That's
now.
right around the corner from Hairy Ass Boulevard.
The Dingleberries.
Well, that's at the corner of Ho 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 and hey, look, it's Illuminati.
Oh
Boulevard.
shit! I saw that one coming. The first time he said, "Oh."
That's if you know what it looks like when it did. Never mind.
He can spot one from a distance, is what he's saying.
Oh man,
you sound like the kind of man that catches hot dogs with an open mouth.
If you don't quit laughing, you're not gonna have a white Christmas tonight.
Oh damn!
He was hoping for more of a wet Easter.
Jesus Christ.
Which is not to be confused with a Mississippi Hot Pocket.
Glitter's coming to help you there, Clue.
Wow, that got really three-dimensional.
I have a question for real.
No shit.
Oh.
Okay. So I keep saying that, right? Like in the defense of like all of the parents, I keep saying, if they couldn't prove, like, for example, Chris wasn't actually in Memphis or Minnesota, is it Mississippi?
Mississippi, yeah.
Like they would have already locked him up. Is that necessarily the case? Because
before I answer that question, all views represented inside of this live broadcast are those of the individuals that are speaking those views. Some things are done as humor. Please shut the fuck up. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm just saying, is that really the case? Because it's not being looked at as a criminal case right now. So I'm just saying, like, if they didn't or couldn't actually prove that they were there without him, like Sebastian, can they prove a reason for them to be incarcerated? I hope I'm asking that right.
I'm lost.
I know, I hear what you're asking. I think what would have happened if the investigative process should be, if their alibi is unconfirmable, then they're going to want to try to verify as best they can what this person's movements were. And then they would bring them in for questioning and maybe even most likely a polygraph, but they would want to have a contradiction to their statements.
Yeah.
So if the alibi isn't clean, like I was at work and I punched in and these people worked with me and I punched out and there was no way in other words, there's no way he could have been involved personally, then the investigation would look to see if they did third party, but they would have to find information to direct them somewhere to directly contradict this person's statement. I was not involved. And if there is no contradiction, then there is no investigation into the person. Right? Fair enough. That's your reasonable doubt. You've proven beyond a reasonable doubt I was here. So there should be no more looking into the fathers, is my point. And the fact the fathers were never required to take a polygraph and Katie was, speaks volumes to the fathers.
No, I kind of do agree with that. But yeah.
I think without a contradiction in fact versus a statement, then there's no interference in an investigation or obstruction of justice, right? So there really wouldn't be anything to bring anybody in on unless you could find a fact that contradicts a statement.
But the thing is the sheriff's department has openly said that there's no evidence of a crime occurring.
Right.
So people are confusing, search efforts and crime. Well, why did they search the landfill? Well, because they thought maybe maybe Sebastian jumped in a dumpster, hit his head, knocked himself out.
Yeah.
They weren't handling it in a manner of which someone came and took him. So they went and searched to make sure that wasn't a possibility, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, I just, because I've got both a criminal background and a 30-year history of upstanding citizenry. When there's a process, they'll take a process as they work through an investigation. And typically you'll notice anybody in law, if they're smart, they'll never ask you a question they don't have the correct answer to. And that's really how you root your way through suspects. And I think when you say you look at the fathers and then everybody's like, did you take a polygraph? Did you take a polygraph? Well, TBI didn't ask them guys to take a polygraph. And I even think they not, wasn't it said by Seth he was told not to?
I don't know, but I don't know if I agree with you. Sorry, I don't know if I agree with you on the fact of they won't ask you a question they don't know the answer to, because that's absolutely not true.
Well, they're going to polygraph you to catch you off in a lie, correct?
Oh, for sure. But in interrogation, the majority of the beginning of interrogation is off assumption and a small little bit of evidence you have. So you're going to say things trying to get the suspect or the interviewee to say things that are going to further that or how they react to that. So oftentimes they're going to ask questions they don't know the answer to, hoping that you're going to tell on yourself and give more information. I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, I'm not saying they don't ask you that, but typically when they're going to interrogate you like that, they do have answers and know things that you don't know they'll know. And that's typically how you'll effectively interrogate somebody. You know things about them they don't know. You can ask them about their past and you know exactly what it is and they lie about it. Well, you can catch them. You can set up a pattern because you have knowledge now to work with that human being. But if your alibi is gold, like I was in a different city, I'm a crane operator, and that's completely verifiable, the value of a polygraph now is what? There is none.
Right.
So that's why that father wasn't asked to take a polygraph. Now go to Seth. He was at work. You verify that beyond any doubt. And then boom, there's no need to, that guy's out. He didn't directly have anything to do with this either. Now, unless your investigation turns up a third party, then the fathers, as far as the fathers go, they're done. There's nothing to look at no more. There's no need to ask you guys.
So you're saying that you don't believe that Chris has taken a polygraph?
I think Chris has told us he hasn't. He specifically said he hasn't, and he wasn't asked to.
Well,
Mm,
What did Chris
he
say?
has since then.
yeah, he has since then.
Okay.
So I mean, I just think that once again, I think it's okay for us to remind each other of maybe new, developments that have come to
Right.
the table. You know what I mean? Um, I wouldn't. I would see that at this point they would offer. I could only imagine that they would offer a lie detector, and an attorney would tell you probably in your best interest not to do it. But I think that might be a little bit different when you're talking about a truly missing person, right? I think that an attorney might advise you to do it if they believed that you had nothing to do with it, not because you're telling them you had nothing to do with it.
Right. And or they know, because the point you're making is irrefutable, right?
Well, and I've got a real good friend of mine who is a defense attorney, and he's a pretty successful one. And he often says that an innocent client is the hardest client to protect and to defend. So it.
I don't disagree.
It's a lot. It's a whole lot easier for a innocent client to be convicted than you would imagine, and a lot easier for a guilty person to be defended with acquittal.
Right.
Because
I know
remember,
that
you only have to give beyond a reasonable doubt. Right? There's a whole lot of ways to give reasonable doubt if you know things about maybe certain situations that your clients told you. You can then create holes and poke holes in it. But when someone's telling the truth and they're sticking to only one story, now the prosecution has the ability to poke holes in that one story. There is no variation.
Yeah. Well, I think as this unfolds, we'll have to see where it goes. Knowing that, and I'm sure I don't know everything at all, not even close to what you guys know about the case. I don't know how the kid left, and I don't think we're ever going to find out. In all fairness, sadly as that sounds, I don't think there's ever going to be a solution to this.
What?
I just don't think there's ever going to. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be anything found at all, except where we are now. I think is where this is going to stay.
No, I disagree. I highly, highly, highly disagree.
Well, because look at that. I agree with Megan. No, yeah, that's fair. That's fair enough. I'm just fairly certain that this is over, right? And it's been over for a long time. I think after the first 3 or 4 weeks, the indication of him ever being found is gone.
Megan,
no.
I think respectfully, it's sad that we don't as a society look at police and prosecutors as good guys, because believe it or not, there are a lot of shitty cops and there are a lot of shitty prosecutors, but
We
there-
got a highly successful one here on YouTube called Detective John.
but there's truly some really good men and women that do care. And I refuse to generally blanketly say that all that police are bad or that they're
Yeah,
not good guys. I think there are some people who are absolutely called to the job and they do amazing. I have a friend who's a chief of police in Indiana, and he's probably one of the greatest men I've ever known. But I also have, in many cases, seen the horrible sides, not only in my own community growing up, but also in my life and the choices I made early on in my life.
Right. But I think that whole system also should be reformed. I think, sadly, our police are often put in untenable positions, and they make decisions or even carry out orders. For instance, when they did that with the masks in some of the states, they're not constitutional legal orders, but they carry them out because they're going to lose their pension. There should be a revamping of that. They should be guaranteed a pension at 10 years, and their last 10 years, they shouldn't have to worry about losing their pension because they stand up and they speak, truth to fucking power. Because that's taken away from them with that pension. Once you pass 10 years, 12 years, 13 years, now, unfortunately, good cops are put in positions where if they speak up, they're going to lose everything they've vested into this career. I think that system needs to be erased so that they can speak up amongst themselves. There should be that ability. That one cop, Detective John, I gave him a situation where his partner and him were investigating something. His partner made a mistake what do you do? And he says, well, it depends on how big the mistake is. Well, that's not the question. That's not what a beat cop is supposed to do. You're supposed to pass that up the chain. That's not for you to decide. You're the arresting officer. You're not judge, jury, and executioner, brother. You see? And then these cops make decisions, unfortunately, and a lot of it's under the pressure of economics. And so a simple change like that to their pension would help free the police up, especially, even presidents. They try to be balls to the walls the last 4 years. You give a cop 10 years of no threat to your pension, you may not end up with so many corrupt cops. Anyway.
I think that the fix to that problem, and I'm not disagreeing with you, it goes a lot more along the lines of, if you're not progressively increasing your rank and your position and your education and value within the police department, then you're fired. I think that we start there, and you see the growth of the young individuals who truly have a love for the protection of their community. We went from a Barney society to a Call of Duty society.
Yeah, in some respects we have. Yeah, it used to be that the policemen had to live in the community they served. The unions got rid of all of that.
Yeah, that's true.
That made a big difference in the cities. It literally did. These cops, they used to laugh. The guys would steal apples, but I'd rather have a cop taking an apple from me than a guy holding me hostage at gunpoint, stealing my car.
I mean, there's a whole lot. There's still cities and townships that abide by that.
That's good. That's a good policy because the police get to know their neighbors, Anyway, this has been awesome. Blue, your last question for the evening.
Where do babies come from?
Live from the tip of Cock Tower. Where do babies come from?
But only straight shooters.
Straight shooters. Well, good night, everybody. Unexpected closure of the stream.
What did you end it?
No, I'm here.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, yeah. Any last words?
Oh, I thought you ended it already.
No.
Oh, I gave you my last words.
Oh,